All right, we are live. Right, Bill? Hello, everybody. We're here with Dave Isaac. I call him Mr. Motown. I started going to him because one of the first things I asked was, how do these people get these vocals, these performances in Motown, get that feel? And I've been on him ever since. And he's been giving, just helping out big time on how to work with singers, artists, pull that emotion out. He's there to answer questions for us. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself, even though we know, but just for the camera. And Lori will start off with the questions.
Well, producer, mix engineer, and I've been many other things throughout the last 45 years, but that's what I do now. And from Detroit, was in LA for about so almost 30 years. And now I'm back in the Detroit area. And that's about it.
All right, Lori.
So, Dave, I guess my first question is, you've worked with a lot of different voices, like they're all range, how do you I guess it's two-part question. The first thing is, how do you capture their essence properly? So I guess in the recording process. And then on the second part would be, when you are recording that, then finding the right vocal chain for that artist, like what your process is.
Let me see if I can keep both questions in my head. The essence of a singer, is it just a singer or anyone?
Singer, rapper, any artist.
Okay, well, if they're not known or unknown to the world, then I'll have to hang around them a little bit, have some meetings, get together so I can hear them sing or rap, get an idea of it. If they have any demos that I could hear, I just have to gather as much information as possible. And I'll use demos to a degree, but I don't put too much weight on them, because they could fix things, they could auto-tune things like that. So I have to make sure at the end of the day, before we go into the studio, that I hear them live in front of me, so I can know that they could really do what I heard in the demo. And then as far as the essence, I have to learn what that is and see how to increase it. I tend to call that spirit or talent and spirit. But and then your other question was, I forgot already.
The other question, I guess, was okay, you got the vocals recorded, and you're now in the process of mixing and producing that. How do you best find that vocal chain, whether that's plugins, to really enhance and elevate that vocalist?
I got you. If it's something that I'm producing myself, the vocal chain comes into play when I'm recording them. It's not in the mix stage. So I listen to their voice. I see how much energy they project. So that lets me know the right microphone. And I tend to get a studio that has a nice size microphone collection, or we'll go somewhere where we can try it for, let's say, an hour or two, and then we'll rent that mic that works best for wherever we're going to work. But the compressor, it depends on the microphone, because if they have a very loud voice, then I might have to have a microphone that can handle that kind of wind pressure on the diaphragm. After that, that'll also let me know what kind of compressor to use, because if they have a loud voice, then I have to make sure there's a compressor that is as transparent as possible. If they have a soft voice, then I can use just about any compressor. Let's see. And then EQ, I try to get that from the microphone. before I start to use EQ.
Amazing.
Did that help you?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess like my one question is like a few plugins. Do you have any suggestions of plugins and things that you do use when you're in your process?
If I'm mixing a vocal?
Yeah, mixing or even recording and all that.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I don't use plugins for recording, but
Okay.
a vocal, especially since it's the star, not to say that it can't be done, but if I did, I would probably use a CL1B, the 2-Tech. And from Softube, I like that one. And then I might put a Universal Audio mic pre on it just to give it that kind of color, or a transformer plugin. And not too much to start. Like I said, depends on the vocal, because I try to get as much of it in the beginning stages. I feel you should record it the way you want it to sound, because that's the way it used to be. You record it the way you want it to sound. So that way, wherever you are, you just pull up the fader and it's almost ready to go.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's like you really want to capture and not have to do as much processing to the vocal, unless that's a stylized thing.
Yeah, unless the artist has recorded themselves, then that's when I'll have to use plugins, or I'll go to a studio, almost like reamping. I'll go to the studio and send it out to some gear and record it back into Pro Tools.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Dave.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
When if I send you a crappy ghetto vocal, you might send it through what? You just sending it through Quality Gear?
Yeah, I'll send it through some gear to. Sorry, guys. I'll send it through some gear to warm it up. Or it depends. It depends on the song. If the song is a nice warm song, then I might send it through some gear to warm it up. Otherwise, if it's like an up-tempo funky kind of song, I might not fix it. I just might go in the other direction with it. I might make it crazy. Yeah, no, that's I'm right behind the kitchen, so that you guys are hearing that. Sorry.
Okay. What did I have? You said energy picking the microphone. What do you mean by energy affecting the microphone? The energy.
Well, if someone is very forceful and they're singing, they're loud, depending on the diaphragm, you could hit it too hard and distort the diaphragm or break the diaphragm or that kind of thing. So it depends on the level of how loud or soft they sing or rap. That would determine the microphone.
Got you. I recorded a vocal. It was either yesterday or the day before, and I made sure that the recording itself was good. And then I ended up digging in with plugins, and I was struggling after a while. And I stopped. I was like, hold on, this vocal was sounding good at first. I took everything off, manually de-essed, vocal sounded good. I was like, oh, this is crazy. I just removed everything and just voila. And yeah, so yeah, I got you.
So is it true that you're saying at sometimes, depending on the vocal of the singer or the artist, sometimes less is actually more?
That's
because
right.
I feel that the true emotion of the artist, especially if they are convinced of the story that they're telling. And I guess me being an artist, I feel that any song that I write or anything that I sing, I have to keep in mind, I'm telling a story. So if you can visualize my words as if you're watching a movie, then I've kind of done my part. But the real magic comes in when it's someone like you, David, that comes in and find those little intricacies to give that chef's kiss, just that little bit more flavor that might make your hair crawl up on your arm or the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And me as a singer, I'm just thinking like, well, that's just, what I normally would do. But I feel that someone like you back in those days, it was all, they didn't have the copy, cut and paste things like technology has evolved these days. Now it was just like you went in there and you went from start to finish. So that longevity of artistry is what's missed nowadays, because everything is so quick to copy, cut, and paste. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you miss the old ways of how things were done back in when they made you run a marathon? Or do you feel that it's more the shortcut way, I should say, of how things are being done these days? That is it harder to pick out that true essence because you can capture so much in one take versus multiple takes?
Well, I definitely miss the way it used to be recorded, but when I produce, it's going to be that way. They're going to have to put in some time. So even if it's like if you do a movie, sometimes you have to go through training for a couple months before you shoot the movie, just so you could be prepared to do the scenes or most of them yourself. So it's the same way with recording in the studio for me, if we have that kind of time and budget. If not, they'll have to do most of the work at home. So that way they're better prepared. So it's not so hard for them when they're in the studio. But that's what made me stop being the recording engineer, just because I wasn't with the, can you fix that and I'm tired, or can you copy and paste that, or can you tune that? Because if you do that, let's say you did 4 or 5 takes and then you edit them, you fix the timing, you fix the tuning. Well, when it comes to you actually performing that song, you're going to sound like crap because you didn't do it the first time. It was put together for you. It wasn't you. Your timing wasn't off. I mean, your timing wasn't good, or your tuning wasn't good, or you had to choose all these best takes, and that means that you have too many things that may be revealed if you sing it live. So if you put a routine, like a dance routine, along with that, and you didn't learn to sing it and dance, now you're also finding a reason to use Pro Tools and lip sync because it's just not you. Yeah.
Well, David, I've got a quick question then. So then how do so many pop artists survive in their careers if they use that method? If they can't really do it or bring it live, how are they?
Well, I mean, most of them they have a look, right? One, and they have a machine that pushes that. Then you got some that, like I said, have to lip sync because to see the difference with somebody like Michael Jackson. Hey, colleague.
What's up, my brother?
You got somebody like Michael Jackson, where Michael would create dance moves that he could sing the song to. But nowadays, people will get a track and then they'll have a dance coordinator create a routine for them. But if the dance coordinator doesn't sing the song along with creating these moves, they might create an issue for the artist. And now the artist has to lip sync just so they can keep up with the dancers.
So, okay, the next question I have then. So fans and people are okay going to see a musical artist who's going to lip sync or who can't.
That's
don't
because
they want to hear a singer? Isn't that the main point? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but you got people that really believe these people are singing. That's why I stopped getting into arguments when I would tell people he's not singing or she's not singing. They're like, really? No. I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to continue. We can agree to disagree. But now there's another trick that they would do where they would go into the studio, record another vocal so it sounds different than the project. So it sounds different than the record. So that way you assume that it's live because it doesn't sound like the record. But actually they went into the studio and sang it again.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess I'm thinking about the scenarios where, YouTube videos or whatever, where you have seen some of these said artists who where it's, all the bells and whistles are added in the studio, but live it's you can hear the difference. Or sometimes they're caught, lip syncing or the auto tuning. And I don't know, I love an artist, for example, Adele, where she can just, her vocals with a piano. She doesn't need a million backup dancers, just simplicity. Mm-hmm. She kills it. And that gives me the goosebumps. That's what I want to pay for. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I get you because sometimes, like I said, all the bells and whistles and all that, okay, they're just catering to a bunch of 12-year-olds with ADHD. I get it. But when you got someone like me who looks at the pure essence of a person's soul, people got to understand, as artists, as we get on that stage, we are bearing our souls. We are bearing our true essence. We are putting our bare nakedness in front of you. So if I didn't move you in some type of way or fashion because you're distracted because this background dancers over here doing this and then you lost me. So I'm not going to waste money for bells and whistles where I'd rather spend money on intimacy. I'd rather sit on an unplugged situation. So I get to hear the story. I get to feel the emotion. You're giving me something that I can feel. Evokes stress, honey. And I'll put that right there. I'm just saying.
Well, that's true. I mean, I get that. But we have to remember that most of these things we're talking about are for a certain age bracket, you know, and whether it's ADHD or just needing to see more, that's what they're used to. They're used to seeing fire and explosions and light flashes and jumping out of the stage and dancers and all that kind of stuff. They're used to that. So, you know, and they just want to jump up and down and party. So, you know, they don't take the time to notice someone lip syncing per se. I mean, but, you know, when you get up, when you go to an older age bracket, that's where, like you said, you want it to be a little more intimate, or you want to know that they're singing. I mean, that's what made Prince, especially in the last 15, 20 years of his life, made him even more special because he was still singing. The band was really playing. You know, the girls could sing. You know, there was no joke, especially when he had the huge horn section. I mean, it was something that you hadn't seen or heard in decades. Now, that doesn't mean that that's for everybody, because you can look at country music. You can look at metal for the most part. They're still doing it. They're still doing it. It's just more pop, you know, because country, not all country has dancers and stuff like that. Most of them are just about performing, just about singing. So you know, you're going to find something that's more true to what it is in those other genres of music.
So I guess in pop, you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah, because it's for the populace. It's
The masses.
what's considered the most popular. So they got to have the whole circus. You know, some do, most do, brother. Need the lights, show, smoke, and everything else. Because if you took some of these artists and you took away the dancers and the smoke and the lights and all that stuff, you probably walk out after a while. You know, it's rare that artists can entertain you like Michael or Prince, where they're in the round and they're on stage by themselves and they could keep you interested, mesmerized.
I was at a concert and I realized that the person on the microphone singing, the lead singer, he wasn't singing his part. A background person was actually singing his part. He was lip syncing. I was like, man, he's still sounding good. Wasn't him. And I caught it. I was like, oh, snap. Some of that trickery.
Hey, musicians do too, Maude. I've been to some shows where the guitarist was pretty much playing air guitar. Okay, I promise you, I'm watching, and I'm like, your fingers is not aligning up what I'm hearing with my ears. So they're lip playing now. Oh my God, I thought it was just a lip sync thing, but no, musicians do it too. I've seen it, and it just blew my mind. I was like, I had no idea that they do stuff like that at all.
Yeah, they do. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes the transmission can be a little out of sync, what you see versus what they're doing. But they do it. They do pantomime. And the other reason typically is sometimes the skill that it took to play that part is something that someone probably was sitting down to do, or they might not have been the one to play it in the first place. Could have been somebody else, you know. But you definitely have them. And then nowadays with all the tracks in the DAWs, Some of these dogs have 999 tracks or more. So, the method of what people are doing nowadays, they record any and everything. And then when they get to the mix stage, they decide to try to put the record together. Now, when you do that, sometimes when you get ready to go on tour and perform, you can't hire that many people. You don't have too many, you don't have keyboard players that can play more than 2 keyboards at a time, So they end up having to have the tracks in the back to make it sound close to the record. And I'm gonna say record just because I have no idea what to call it nowadays, music project or whatever, but I'm gonna say the record. But yeah, that's part of the problem. I mean, if you listen to, let's say, and I don't want to keep bringing up Prince or the time, but the thing about that concept was Prince, for the most part, especially with the time, they only recorded what the band could play, no more. So that's what would make them where they could sound like the record. Now, if we go back to like a Sly Stone or James Brown or somebody like that, well, they did the same thing, but for the most part, they were playing it live. So of course, it's going to sound close to the same when they perform it live, because they performed it live in the studio. Right? And that's why they used to call it the live room. It's because the room was for a band or an artist to go out there and perform live, or an orchestra with Frank Sinatra, whatever, to go out there and perform live. And the control room was to control the performance as they recorded. But that concept has changed.
Welcome, Khalid.
What's up, my brother?
My brother. Been a long time.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
We hear you good, bro.
Good. Yeah. Sorry I popped in a little bit late, but I had to be here for my brother. What's going on, Dave?
Man, I'm all right.
Thank you
for joining us. It's
Definitely
been a long time.
Had to.
A long time. Yeah. How's everything with you?
Oh, you guys still hear me? I heard something glitch.
Yep, he said, how's everything with you?
Oh, everything's good. Everything is getting back on stage. I lost my daughter last year, so I'm just now kind of getting through all that. But otherwise, just trying to stay on this earth and feeling blessed that I'm still here every morning.
There you go, man. You're looking young too. Look at that.
Hey, man, well, I don't have the hair down anymore, so we got the gray in, but that's why I wear the cap. Disguise, the master of disguise.
Yeah. Okay, I get you.
Yeah. Well, don't let me take it up. Y'all go ahead and do your thing. I'm enjoying this. I wanted to chime in on one thing though. I guess you guys were just talking about the differences of live performance and things like that. And it's so funny because the one thing that is encouraging though, man, some of these younger generation that's coming out now, because the template has been set. Like when we were coming up, there was no template, it was being invented. But now the template has been set. You can go out and buy videos, you can get quick study courses and tutorials for somebody can break stuff down for you that came before. And so now I think it's encouraging that I'm starting to see some young musicians and people that are coming out and actually starting to play their butts off now in a very creative way and bending the rules a little bit, and even with talking about people singing and things like that, when we came up, you had to learn how to sing in tune. When you went in the studio, you didn't do it again. It's out of tune. Now it's so funny. That sounds foreign to somebody that's younger because they grew up on auto tune. It's automatically in tune and everything. So when they hear somebody that has natural vocal inflections, that sounds foreign. But the other side to that is when you get used to hearing things that are so in tune or so in time, I think as time is going on, the next generations that come up are going to be able to play again and sing again in tune and in time. I'm seeing evidence more and more of that. So there's hope.
I hope so. But I like how you put it with the there's a new template. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
You have to study though, and not throw out the old because you think it's old. It's like this is what set everything up, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right, who has a question?
Dave, I have another question for you because I'm curious. I saw on your, repertoire of all the amazing artists you've worked with, with James Brown, and I love James Brown. I was wondering if you could maybe share a story or anything in particular when you were working with him.
Well, my dad grew up as a kid with James Brown, so that's where the circle starts. And he took us to meet my brother and I. He took us to meet him when I was a kid, about 12. But by the time I got with Marcus Miller, there was a what is it called? The Experience Music Project. Weren't you there, Khalid?
Yeah.
Weren't you involved in that?
Yeah.
So we had all of the living members, anyone who played with James Brown, come to Capitol. And we redid the song Sex Machine and Doing It to Death is what it's called, but they call it something else nowadays. I don't know why. But we redid those songs with the actual band. And that was a full circle moment for me. I wish my dad would have seen it, been around when it happened, but to know that he started with him and grew up together, and then his son ended up producing it with Marcus Miller, and it was a nice thing because it was for a ride that was going to be like Universal Studios, or was like Universal Studios, where you're surrounded by screens and you go into this world where George Clinton and a young actor, I can't remember his name, but they were going to take you down this wormhole to different areas or genres of music. And it was Rufus and Shaka Khan, Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters, Dr. John, the Gap Band, Parliament Funkadelic, and James Brown. And we did it at the Forum at that time.
Wow, that's so cool and such a cool full circle moment for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to hear this song. Is there a way that we can hear this song somehow?
We could do another Zoom and I can play it through like a listen to or something like that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared to set up for that today. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, but I'll be glad to do that.
Awesome.
All right. Go ahead, Flo.
David, I'd love for you to, I'm going to rephrase this question that I had in my mind. I'd love for you to speak on, I'd love your opinion on your thoughts of the importance of a song versus a voice, meaning a good voice. Well, I guess that's subjective, but I've just noticed, in looking at, for example, the careers of Jazmine Sullivan, Lettucey, and again, accolades are not the most important thing at all, right? It's connection with people. But I realized that Lettucey had been nominated 12 times for Grammy, and it was just last year. She's amazing. It's just last year that she won. Jazmine Sullivan, I was reading up on her where she, so many times was so close to, a hit or, getting accolades, but was always the nominee. And people and again, it's subjective, but people let's say, Taylor Swift, Madonna, Britney Spears, are winning accolades, and Jazmine and Lettucey could sing circles around them. So I guess in my analysis, I was thinking at the end of the day, is it does a hit song trump a really good voice? Do you know what I mean? Again, this could be a controversial question because some people may feel like Britney or Taylor or Madonna or J-Lo have incredible voices and may get upset with, what I bet it's been a question that's popped up where, there's certain artists who could just sing in their sleep, but there's others who may not be the best singers, but they're just soaring with success and fame and accolades. You know what I mean? Again, that's not the most important thing, but curious about your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, you never know. But I would say, first of all, it probably, I would say, would be the song and the melody or the hook or the catchiness of it. Because, I mean, what did the Fox say? Or Macarena, who let the dogs out? I'm sure they made more money than Jazmine Sullivan. But it's when it comes to the singer, there have been some times where I've listened to singers or listened to their projects, and they can sing. It's just the songs aren't interesting enough, or the songs aren't catchy enough. You know, it's something where the stars have to align. You know, sometimes the stars can align, but the record company might not have the money to do the marketing, or proper marketing, or marketing in time. You know, or reaching the right stations, or streaming services now. You know, because it has become it's been a video world for a long time, but it's really a video world now. Most of the times, someone will put out the video, and the goal is to get you to come out to see the performance, the tour, because that's where they're going to make the most money nowadays. So, you know, it just depends. But I feel like if I had to really answer that question today, I would say, well, I guess it would start with the song and who does it.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, align the song, the catchiness of it, the singer, their spirit or talent, spirit, and energy. And hopefully you got, you know, it's like somebody cooking. You know, you're in the kitchen and you're in the studio trying to figure out what would be a hit or what would taste good. So you use different spices, you use different things, and you hope that at the end of it, it's a great meal or a great song.
So David, so here's the next thing I want to because I just had this conversation with a couple people over the past couple months. For example, Lil Nas X and Old Town Road. I think was it a year ago or 2 years ago, Old Town Road broke records. He won, right? But a lot of people would say unanimously that he's not a good singer, that he's very marketable, and he's got so at the end of the day, it's a good, catchy song. It's being marketable. And then the bonus is if you have, for example, your Bruno Mars, your Adele, your Lady Gaga, your Justin Timberlake's, your Justin Bieber's who can sing. That's the added bonus. But what trumps it is a good song, and great marketing will go very far, period. Is that correct?
Then sometimes it's just the public is tired of what they've been hearing, what they've been subjected to. I mean, I think it's fortunate that we have so many streaming services now because, I was bored with radio a decade or two ago. So now on the streaming services, I can find music all day. There's an app called Radio, and it allows you to listen to music over any decade and anywhere in the world. You just press where in the world you want to listen to something, and then you choose a decade and it'll just play music. So, I mean, now that, the world is your oyster with finding new music. But I think things like Old Town Road or certain songs, it's just, they'll blow up because people were just tired of what was out there. They'd rather have anything. I mean, not saying the song wasn't bad, because it was a hit for country people and country artists. And probably in Nashville, people do the line dance to it. But, I would just say every now and then somebody even with Adele, she could sing great. And the first album I remember, it might have been the second album, where it was all about a breakup. Now, when I listened to the album, I was like, oh, she's a great singer. Sounds incredible. The music is beautiful. I felt sad. I felt like I should go and apologize to some woman because this woman has been through a lot. But what made me interested in it is because it was different, something new. Yeah.
I don't know where y'all get saying Old Town Road and Macarena wasn't dope. Them man.
I didn't say they weren't.
It was my jam.
I didn't say they were. I mean, you got to have songs. You got to have some music that you can have fun to in clubs or at family reunions or whatever. You got to have fun stuff too. So
what was interesting too to me is he wasn't a one-off. He was able to follow it up several times too.
Mm-hmm.
So. That's not easy out here in a world full of stuff where there's 60,000 things released a day or more, to break through. So I had talked to people that can do that. It's not easy.
That's right.
I have one more question, then I'm going to stop hogging and let other people speak. Lori mentioned standing out, that there's lots of, singles or albums with like 90,000, streams. So David, in your opinion, what would you feel are like the ingredients for an artist to stand out?
Yeah, that's hard to tell nowadays. I mean, I would say you can have a look, because even Lizzo has a look. Something different about you, the way you sing or the way you phrase things, or your character. It just depends. You got to find you. You got to find you on stage, what that would look like, what that would sound like. You know what I mean? Just imagine if you asked yourself that question, and let's say you were going to an event, and I said, okay, well, Flo, make sure you wear something that'll make you stand out. Make sure you carry yourself in a way to make sure, you stand out. Well, start thinking about that as an artist. Yeah, because it could be any number of things. Sometimes artists don't find it until they're into their second or third project or into their career. Sometimes it has to change.
Now, David,
because
you in regards to this. Now, back in the day, and even now, you hear people say, "Oh my God, you have it. You have the it factor." Explain to me, what is it? Because you have or you don't have it, right? So if someone is constantly coming to me saying, "Oh, you have it," and I'm like, "Have what?" In my mind, I'm going, this is just my higher self. This is just me. So if my higher self is making you feel some type of way, okay, then I guess that's me being it. Then me is it. But can you elaborate on that for me? What is the it factor?
Well, the it factor could be anything. If somebody comes up to you and tells a girl, you got it. Okay, you need to make sure they say what that is, because they could just be trying to holler at you. But if I say you got it, I could tell you, okay, I love your voice. You have your own character, or you have in your pure tone area, your head voice or whatever. I love the way you sound when you sing breathy. I love that you have that. Or I might say, let's say if it was Michael McDonald, if you guys know who that is, his it was just his voice was his own character. He could sing whatever, and it's Michael McDonald. Sade, anybody, she could sing anything, and I don't know it's Sade. So it could be many things. It's just somebody being able to tell you what that it is. It might be your look, it might be your style, it could be anything.
Natty, you had some questions for him?
Yeah, I do. I'm just gonna write down what Dave said real quick. So just give me a sec.
And y'all got Khalik in here too. So here Khalik up. He's a wealth of information. Khalik, go back, man. In fact, Khalik, I remember
taking notes.
What was it? Lionshare?
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? Lionshare back then?
Yeah, Lionshare Recording Studios. Well, before that, when Reggie Dozier was there, it was Concord, and then it was what was the other thing before Concord? I forget, man. I'm getting old, man. You put me on the spot, bro. I'm getting old, man.
and it changed to Yab Yum or something, right?
Yeah. Babyface got it after that. Yeah. So, but we got, man, I was just thinking about it. It's like, man, it's been over 20 years. It's like, it seems like yesterday, but it's been over 20 years, man, since we first met and started working together.
Oh man, no, I think it was more than that. Yeah. Because I remember the studio. Was it Who Let the Dogs Out? Or what? It was one of those kind of tag team or something.
There it is, yeah.
Womp There It Is, yeah. Womp There It Is. That's why I met you. When y'all were doing that, y'all were doing that stuff.
Yeah. So, I think that was the late 90s or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've been knowing each other for a while.
Man, good time.
Wait, Khalik, you worked on Whoop That Is?
Oh yeah, man. I had to clear all them 52
That's
samples.
what I was about to say. I didn't know that. We just found out something right now. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
When you know what they say, well,
some hip hop street cred. Oh,
well,
what?
well, there's the right phrase. Well, there it is.
Yeah,
You just learned something.
You said you had a lot of sample clearing that you were actually.
Man,
Tell us about that. That must have been a headache.
I must have something weird going on. You guys are dropping in and out on me. It might be my AirPods. I might have something going on. Because I didn't hear anything. I may have to give me a moment. I think I'm gonna change over to some headphones or something. These might be.
Just tell us about clearing them samples.
Oh, okay, yeah. The samples on Whoop, there it is. They had so many. This is back in the day, and I was working at it was a company called Bellmark Records. I came on board with the A&R team, and they noticed that just like Dave, I used to always study all kinds of stuff, so I could hear all these different little snippets and I easily identify where they came from. And this is where, in the beginning, people were just taking samples, from records and putting them in their stuff and everything. But then after Whoop, there it is, the samples got cleared after the song became a hit. So it became a nightmare because, people want their money, after the fact, and it's blown up. You could get it cheaper if you would have done it in front, but when you do it on the back end, it becomes a big old nightmare. But yeah, I had to get in there and we had to go through everything and identify all the different little things that was in there, go to the companies. Everybody within the company had to do different little things, but my role was basically because I could kind of identify a lot of things just from hearing snippets, because I was always listening to music. Within the A&R, we had to do that and clear it. So that's all it was. I was part of the team that had to clear that and then get people paid on the back end. They want their money. Clear your samples in front. Lesson learned.
Okay, so they still needed an OG to come in and identify. I got you.
Yeah.
All right, Nadacy, you ready?
Well, wait a minute. Before you do that, Lori says she's got to break out. So, Lori, where you at?
I'm right here. It was really great meeting you guys, and I hope that there's so many more. Thank you, Dave. I'm looking forward to the replay because I'm just going to catch up right from where we left off. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Pleasure to have you. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Hey, Joyce. Wow.
Hi, Dave. Nice to see you.
Look at that smile. This was one of my students. Where was it at? UCLA or was it MI? UCLA?
Yeah, UCLA Extension. And then I went over to MI.
Wow.
After that.
And look
Years
at that.
ago.
Look at that hair. Wow. I like that. Now she's a wonderful artist, guys. She's a wonderful artist. Yeah, you guys should look up some of her work. Is that some of your work in the background?
Yeah, the painting on the top here.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Joyce in the house.
Thanks.
Nice.
You guys introduce yourself to them. Let everybody know what to do.
Okay. My artist name is Tayo Joyce. So I'm a fine artist as well as a singer, songwriter, and music producer. And Dave inspired me to get on this path. Wow, was it like 6 years ago? Yeah, when I took a class at UCLA Extension. And from then I've been just working on it, built my home studio, and I've been working on music and getting out there too. So thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you.
Much love to you.
She's been sitting there quiet too, just watching. I was wondering if you was gonna see her, when you were gonna see her. We've been over chatting in the little chat.
In the chat area? Okay.
Yeah. Nadacy, you ready?
I'm ready. For those of you who came in late, I'm Nadacy. I'm a singer-songwriter working with Ma'at for about the past 2.5 years. And Dave, my question is, what do you think about artists going through physical pain and possibly getting addicted to drugs to cope with the pain? How can that be prevented?
If I knew that, I probably would open up a clinic somewhere. But that's not something that I could give advice or thoughts on. If they're going through pain, I mean, that's something that should be looked at or dealt with. But sometimes you can't help it. I mean, like If we talk about Michael, whatever pain he went through from the burns, you know, he had the money, unfortunately, to have the means to buy what he needed to deal with the pain. But yeah, that's not something I could really answer. How someone would deal with pain, because you know I got a tooth that's bothering me now, and I always want to take more ibuprofen than they suggest. So I can imagine, you know, if it was a burn or a bone issue or anything like that, spinal things. It's hard for me to say what somebody should or shouldn't do.
All right. Well, then can I hit you with a different question?
Sure.
Okay. How as a woman should I carry myself in the music industry surrounded by men?
Like a woman. Now, you could be a woman with character, or you could be a woman that's a character. You know, but you know, yeah, that's another hard one for me, because how you carry yourself in the music industry should be how you carry yourself, period, anyway. You know, how do you carry, why should someone meet you in the industry and you're different than what you are off screen, off stage, unless let's say you're very soft-spoken, but then when you get on stage, you're like Tina Turner. So like, okay, well, I understand that. But as far as how you carry yourself in meetings, how you carry yourself in interviews, how you carry yourself in signing situations or backstage, yeah, that's just how you should carry yourself. Whatever you want people to see and know you as. Yeah.
My respond to that as well. If you've ever saw the movie, was it not Dreamgirls, but Sparkle? Remember the guy was like, I want to see what they look like in the morning. But he didn't say it like in that content. It was just kind of like, you know, I see you tonight, you're all glam and glitter and pretty, but let me see what you when I wake up to you in the next day. So it's just kind of like, if you create this persona, I feel like this with anybody, any male or female. It's my theory is first we try, then we trust, because I feel that I'm going to try you for 90 days. Because see, habits are broken within 90 days. So it's either authentically going to be you and it won't change. But when that 90-day comes and you're like, well, that's not what you were doing in the beginning, I got you. So now I know exactly how to accordingly move to that beat of that person. So it's either I'm going to mess with you, I'm not going to mess with you. And as a woman in this business, respect and fine tuning comes naturally when you know your femininity. Because when there's too many masculine females out here who think that they can be, you know, this, oh, I can hang with the big dogs. But no, it's not about hanging with the big dogs. Sometimes it's about being that desert flower. You got to be coy enough, but strong enough that your presence is always going to be known, but you don't have to say much. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love it.
And to add to that, I want to know what Khalid has to say to that, though, because that was a hard question. But to add to that, carry yourself like a businesswoman, where it's all about business. You know what I mean? Now, you know, I can't tell you what to do if you meet somebody and you have an attraction to them or whatever, but how you should carry yourself when you say as a woman, not that I'm the one to tell you, you know, because I'm not a woman, but I would just say, handle your business, carry yourself like a businesswoman. Know your business. Know, because the other thing is, it's just like in engineering or anything else. If I went into a room, and it has happened, where if I go into a room and I don't say who I am or what I do or go too deep in it, or someone doesn't really know anything about me, and I make a suggestion about, let's say something on the console, if they test me, I'll let them know that I know my stuff. And then just from what I say, they'll know, okay, he's not the average dude. I can't mess with him anymore. Same thing. You know, I feel like that's what made certain women probably like, I know Madonna for sure did that because I saw it with my own eyes, but then I'm sure Beyonce, J-Lo, different women like that, they have now enough business savvy to let you know they know what they're talking about. So just know the business, handle your business, and be a businesswoman. I would say that, I guess.
Yeah, can I chime in on something real quick too?
Yeah.
And Dave, bounce off of this too, because what he just said was so important, because this is a male dominated industry, even still to this day, which I don't get, because the biggest creativity and changes actually have been driven by women out here. And, and it's a good balance, everything, but how you command respect. And when you walk in the room, from the moment you walk in, you got to, there's some people, and I have to say this too, because I've seen it myself and everything, Dave, I'm sure you've seen it, where we've seen some artists where he said, watch me make her do this.
Repeat it, Khalid. Your audio went out.
Oh, okay. I was saying, I've seen some people, a woman will come into the room or whatever, and the guys are kind of all hanging there, and if she's fine or whatever, I've actually seen plots of like, watch this, watch me make her do this, because they can tell by the way she walked into the room, if she was coming in not about the business, but coming in about just using her sexuality, things like that, guys will start plotting to make things happen like that, and I've also seen it on the other side, because I'm not going to say it's just guys, but we're talking about this being a male dominated industry. You have to carry yourself, like he said, with, you walk in like, you're Michelle Obama or whatever. You ain't going to walk, you're going to command respect, because people are going to know that you're in there to do your thing from a business point of view, from a talent point of view. You're not just trying to take a shortcut to get there because you're pretty, because you got in because you got the right body and things like that. And you're going to use those things. Those things go away and they fade. And if people know you're using that, they'll use that against you. And that's what I always respect, people that come into a room. Women that come into a room and they ain't having it, they command respect. And us men, we recognize that too, and we stop messing with the bull. We stop it real quick, because when somebody comes in and they're about the business, it's like, okay, you came in here for the right reason, the right energy, and then we're not going to disrespect you. But I've seen people just let themselves be disrespected by coming in with the wrong agenda. And I think that's a big, important thing. I can already tell by how you're talking that you're somebody that you have pride in yourself, shortcut, you're about your business and everything. I could tell that just from these few, just these few moments of conversation I've heard from you. So stay on that path, because people will recognize that energy, and they won't try to, disrespect you by taking you through some other crap that has nothing to do with where you're trying to go business-wise.
Beautiful, man.
Thank you.
You might want to check your connection, Khalid, because every now and then it would go out.
Okay. Right, you was dropping some gems, and I'm trying to grab them. I was trying to get on place, sir. I was just like, what? What?
And see, to add on to that, like this was part of a conversation with me and her, as why she's asking that question. I had to change how I conducted myself, because I would walk into a room. I'm this young Black guy. I was a nerd. I'd walk into the room and stuff would be happening that wasn't happening with other people. I just put it that way. And I had to adjust myself, and made them adjust themselves. Like I remember clearly one time somebody cracked a certain joke. I didn't laugh. I was quiet, and I just looked at them. And everybody started adjusting and got uncomfortable. And I just started changing my ways. Back in the day, I would have laughed and like, hold on, what the hell I'm laughing for? Mm-hmm. And I just changed my ways, and they all started adjusting. Like I was in the military, and one of the guys, he walked up and he standing behind me and put his hand on the back of my head. I'm like, motherfucker. And the whole room, like there was a big adjustment, a bunch of stuff I had to start doing to where none of that stuff happens to me now. Not like whatever it is about me, I don't have to do that no more. That reaction, like I don't even have to do that no more. There's something about me now, and I don't even know what it is, just whatever, my aura, my energy, whatever, however y'all say it, to where that doesn't even happen to me anymore. But I was going through it, and I had to make an adjustment. And when she walks into a room, or any woman walks into a room full of men, and you can't necessarily control what they're thinking, what they might initially do. But in the end, yeah, they can catch that vibe and get an understanding. Some of them might have to, somebody might have to say something to them, or whatever. But yeah, I like that she asked that question. I wanted her to see what everybody would say, because women need to be able to be in these rooms with us, be safe, and conduct themselves in a way that gets results that they want.
Remember the time when I went out for my award ceremony? When I say I really say much of anything, it was just my presence. And this is what he told me. He said, "Oh, you're different." He said, "Because you got every guy in here paying attention to you, but you ain't paying them no mind." And he was like, you sing it to this guy. And he was just like, at this moment, he was like, whatever she wants, she can have it. But what did I do? I thanked him for his time and his listening ear. And I walked off, and Mott was like, "Oh, you're different. You are definitely something different." I said, that doesn't impress me, because I feel like this. What intrigues me is the knowledge that you carry. If you want to talk to me, you have to give me something that I don't know. Otherwise than that, I feel like I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste mine. So the pleasure was all mine to meet you. Let's keep it going. But Mott was like, no, it's the way you're not out here. You're not exploiting yourself. He's like, you're being this mysterious person. So everybody's like, who is this girl? And I said, well, my great grandmother always used to tell me, if you can walk in the room without saying a word and your presence is known, that's the God in you. And I said, oh, so everywhere I go, Grandma, I'm supposed to just let God shine. She said, exactly. So now ever since I was a kid, that's all I've ever known, is just to walk in the room and don't say anything. Just say less. And then you just watch how people maneuver and how they, articulate, or how they communicate effectively amongst each other. And then you pick up when you need to pick up, and then you fall off when you need to fall off. So that's one thing that I did notice that I didn't know I did naturally. And Mott was like, oh, that's something that is truly taught. It's just not given naturally, but whoever your elders were, they taught you right, young lady. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. But I didn't think nothing of it, because that's just me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Grandma sound like she was deep.
Yep.
Man, she was looking fine as hell. Her husband standing next to her, looking like he the manager who will whoop your butt. The manager, bodyguard, and she had people eating out of her hands, and she wasn't doing nothing, Nathan. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell? And yeah. Anyway, yeah, she was kicking butt. I learned some stuff that night. I actually learned. Y'all have been taught, like, people talk about people coming in and move the room and command respect and all of that. And I saw it in action. I was like, oh, that's that star shit right there. That's what that is. I seen it and experienced it for myself for the first time. Yeah.
Somebody mentioned earlier about the it factor and things like that. And we've all heard this phrase too. The loudest person in the room is probably the weakest person in the room. The ones that's trying to look at me and be sparkly or louder or whatever. What that person is just walks in and just quiet and commanding, and something about them. We're in the music industry, and music is based on vibrations. You can feel people's vibrations when they're in the room. When the right person is in the room, you can feel the vibrations of somebody, whether they're saying something or not, So it's very important and very powerful. I think my camera might have died. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, and let me see what's going on. Yeah, I got something going on. I got some electrical power issues coming in, kicking me in and out.
I got an audio
I'm going to mute
question.
and I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Shadiq.
When do you know a mix is done? Because there's been a lot of times to where I feel like something ain't right, can't pinpoint it, and then I'll go too far to where it's like, yeah, it ain't even in no more. And then I remix, and it's just it's hard to kind of know when to stop. And I just wonder, like, what have you developed over the years to kind of help you, when necessary?
Well, there's two schools that I use. One, if I don't hear anything, nothing's bothering me. I got the vision of the song that I was looking to capture, meaning taking you on a trip with your ears and everything is doing what I want to do, then I feel like it's done. Now, that I tried to do within a day or two, depending on who I'm working with, and if they can articulate themselves good enough for me to give them what they're looking for. But another thing, the second school is, if it's time to go, it's time to go. You know, like when I worked on TV stuff or movie stuff, if it needed to be turned in by a certain date, I did what I could do until that date. And then at that date, it was time for that child to go on out to college, and hopefully they do well. You know, so I'll send the song off. And if they call me back and say there's anything, which, you know, typically most people in the industry, film industry or TV, have been hearing it along the way. So it shouldn't be too many surprises. But when it's time for it to be sent, I send it. And I just have to live with that. So that's where I learned to make bigger moves and really get the placement, EQ, stuff like that first. So then the rest is just levels. But I also use levels along the way. Levels is the biggest thing. I can make something sound like a record just by faders and panning within 30 minutes. But the biggest thing should be sought out first in your first hour, your first 2-3 hours. And then if you get it where everything, you can hear everything, the masking is out of the way, you have some of your basic effects, or there's certain moves you're writing down, then I think you can finish it within 6 or 7 hours, as long as you understand the vision of the song, you know, the vision from the artist's perspective or the producer's perspective or the record label perspective. If you can see what everybody asked you for, then it's done, unless somebody have changes. Yeah.
Another question is, you're a musician as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it harder to mix your own music down?
No, because I don't. I get you. No, because I don't look at myself as that. If I'm mixing it, I look at it as a song. You know, there are times where there's artists or musicians that I've worked with, and they want to hear themselves louder in the track, which I get that if they're the main artist. But you know, you gotta be able to know when to pull it back and put it in perspective, or when to feature them. You know. Now, let's say, what do you play? What instrument do you play?
I guess keyboards. I guess, and I do everything with the keyboard.
Okay.
MIDI controller.
I got you. So let's just say if I got a mix from you and the keyboards are loud, I would assume you're a keyboard player. If the guitar is too loud, then I assume you're a guitar player. But that doesn't mean that the guitar needs to be loud unless you're the feature, unless it's like a solo, or let's say Eric Clapton. Okay, Eric Clapton's guitar is going to be a little louder sometimes in a mix because he's the star, he's the artist. It's his project. Let's say if it was someone like Elton John, okay, the piano's going to be a little louder because it's Elton John. You want the listener to know immediately who is the star, or who is the star and what are they playing. So, you know, if it's a song where, let's say, an artist wouldn't be playing an instrument on stage, okay, well then I probably would look at the instrument differently. So that way you wouldn't expect to see that artist playing that instrument live, right?
Yeah. Another thing, what would you suggest for a person that doesn't have a subwoofer, that's dealing with some low end issues with maybe a kick in the bass? How do you kind of get around something like that when you really don't have that, you know, that speaker or whatever to give you that frequency in a way that you can really decipher any, you know, issues that need to be addressed?
Okay, well, I mean, there's filter cutoffs that you could use to make sure that you don't have anything in a low area that you can't hear that's creating an issue. But I would also say, if there's a song or a couple of songs that you could use as a reference that you know that has the low end that you're trying to capture or that you like, look at those on a meter. Look at them on a spectrum analyzer, see what they're doing, see where their cutoffs are. Give yourself an idea and then look at your song, you know. And then if you have things that are fighting, like a kick drum and a bass, then you might want to tune the kick drum differently so it has its own place, or choose another kick drum. I mean, that's another thing where, and you know, people would use these dance tricks where they do the side chain. You could do that too, you know, but the thing with a side chain compression on a kick drum, for me, is if I'm a bass player and every time the kick drum hits, it turns off my amp, I'm gonna want to quit this band. You know, because I'm trying to get this girl in the front row like everybody else. But if I'm hitting the bass hard and every time I hit this bass, the kick drum shut my amp off, yeah, I'm done. But if it's a pumping thing for a club track or something like that, then I get it. That's an effect. But ultimately, if the bass and the kick drum are fighting, because sometimes they don't have to fight. The kick drum can sound like the attack of the bass, or they can sound like one. But if they're actually fighting, when you're recording the song, when you're creating a song, choose a different kick drum. Choose a kick drum that works instead of choosing just any kick drum and then dealing with fighting and trying to make it make sense. Just choose the right kick drum that will work with the bass, or tune it a little bit. Like I said, you could tune a kick drum. That could also help.
Can I chime in for a hot second too, Dave?
Yeah,
on that?
yeah, cut it.
One of the things that you can do, there's a couple resources you can do. If you don't have a subwoofer, you can get, there's a company called SonarWorks that has this software that will tune whatever speakers you have in your room and compensate to make it as flat as it can. But then also, have something alternate that'll allow you to hear some of that low end, like some headphones or something like that. Headphones that'll give you more representation on that extended thing. And then Dave gave you some other great tricks. Put your stuff on an analyzer. If you use some plugins like FabFilter Pro Q3, you can actually solo what's happening down in that low end, for example. And you can put you can just kind of see what's happening down in there, hit that solo button and see what's going on in my very low end without listening to everything else that's happening in the song. And if, for example, you're hearing, piano, vocals, that lets you know, do like he said, and use your filters to get that out, because that stuff is coming down in an area where it's really not being useful, and it's frequencies stack on top of each other, especially down there in the low end. And then and it also keeps you from getting your music as competitively loud as you want it as well. Things like bass, and kick drum, determining which one should be lower. Some basses need to carry the low end and the kick needs to hit it a little higher. So little things like tuning the harmonics and the frequency, things like that, to add little things in there. Distortion can add it up on a higher level so that so little stuff.
Oh man, Khalid, somehow you're dropping out, and every time you drop out, I feel like falling on my chair because you're dropping some knowledge, just breaking up.
Man, for real.
Oh my God.
God.
Oh my God, I don't even know where it happened to. Yeah, something's going on, because I'm seeing it might even be my internet connection. I got some kind of issues going on. I just got back
AOL.
I just got from AOL. You got jokes. Okay. Yeah. No, I just got back from Vegas, and quite frankly, I just walked in here and hooked some stuff back up. So forgive me, guys. But repeat again, SonarWorks, look for that, because that'll help you tune the speakers that you have to be a little more flat to represent. Use headphones, that'll help you hear some of the lower end stuff. And then use FabFilter Pro Q3, and then just listen to the low end using the little feature they have to be able to solo that low end. And then if you hear your vocals down in the low end, the vocals don't need to be down in it. That tells you to work on your EQ to get it out of that area, so that all you're hearing is what you need down there. I just saw my video camera went off again, so I don't know if the audio is going, but
audio's all good. You're good.
Good. Okay. But little stuff like that'll help you guys.
Okay. Another question is like a sidechain. Is that something that you typically, does it depend on what you're hearing, whether you sidechain on drums, or do you, is that something that's, needed, like in this era of music? Is that something that's, that, you get what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say?
I think so. I mean, for the most part, man, I only side chain, let's say like the snare out of the overheads or something like that if it's a live drummer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. I mean parallel compression. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. All
right. The drums, what I mean?
So ask the question again so I can make sure I understand.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, because, sometimes I don't parallel compress, and then I'm just wondering if I'm missing out. Like, am I supposed to be parallel compressing, like, to really get,
I got you.
Can I, I don't know how long it's been around, or if that's what everybody's doing nowadays, or, if that's like a standard of, always parallel compression the drums.
Well, it's more popular now, for sure. I mean, it's been around for decades. That's why you have the different styles of, let's say, New York compression, Motown compression, stuff like that. But it depends on what you're doing. Sometimes I might hear a project, let's say if I'm not involved with the entire project, but if I hear one of the other songs that I didn't do and it's more in your face, then okay, I might take a look into parallel compression to make sure that it's consistent with what else, that's involved in the project. For myself, yeah, I parallel compress in different ways, a lot, but not necessarily even with compression. Sometimes I'll do weird stuff with, let's say, reverb, and I might have things in parallel, or which gets crazy. But typically, yeah, I'm nowadays for the genre that we're talking, most genres, pop, R&B, hip hop. Yeah, you're going to typically use parallel compression to stay in sync with what's out there.
I got you. And then one more question this is for both of y'all. If when you're dealing with, you have the 808s and you have the sine type of bass going on, and you'll hear certain harmonics in there that just kind of get in the way of the song. Is that something that you would normally just kind of like go with an EQ and like, turn that decibel down, or is there another? Well, just go ahead and give me the trick, man.
Well, I mean, without hearing it, it's hard for me to say, and I'll let colleague chime in on it too, because without hearing it, it's hard to say. But when, you kind of described it as if you hear an issue, yeah, then that means you're going to go in with an EQ and EQ that frequency down, notch it out, whatever it takes to, get to what you're hearing in your head. Or again, find another one. There's so many 808 samples, you know what I mean, or things that you could use to where if you're starting out with one that has a problem, if you don't want to take the time to find another one, then just go notch it out, get an EQ and notch it out, and keep it moving. Yeah.
All right,
colleague.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can go, but the main thing that Dave and all of us older guys learn is try to do no harm. The more stuff that you have to do, is going to keep altering it away. So first of all, listen to the basic song the sound that you're starting with, and then
Oh man, I don't know what's going on, but every time you get ready to drop it and I'm following you, then it goes out.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. And every time I look at I'm looking over here at Zoom. I think it's a Zoom issue because I keep seeing a little message come up. You guys can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
I don't see it on there, but as soon as you said something, I said, I bet something happened. I looked and I saw a message on Zoom.
Okay. Every time, man, you'll say, so the secret to this is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me, and I'm gonna keep looking at this to see. Don't, listen to the main sound and see what it sounds like by itself before you start trying to put a lot of stuff on it right away. See what your source material is like. It may not be as bad as you think. A lot of times we keep adding more and more stuff thinking that we need to do this automatically. And sometimes it's something very, very simple. Alter it in the thing because you think there's a problem. Take all that stuff off. I regularly bypass everything and see what I started with, and then put it back in to see if it's actually helping or what I'm imagining in my head. If you got an 808 sound and it's not quite sitting the way you want it to be, just listen to the pure, well, what am I working with and what am I missing? If it's a pure sine wave 808 sound, okay, maybe I just need some harmonics in it. So you can look in and get, decapitator from it and to add some different harmonics. And then decide you might need to get in and add a filter that adds a little bump in a certain area that makes it poke out, as opposed to right where it's sitting, because maybe it's right in the same area with the kick drum, and you need to move it away, see what you can do, but bare minimum. Minimalist will really help you get to the solution faster. Most of the time we're so quick to just keep piling and adding things on. We were talking earlier about parallel compression, and that became a thing, but the thing now, and then everybody thinks it's a panacea where you put it on everything. And the secret that us older guys know is we didn't have that option back in the day. You could do one or two things because we were dealing with hardware. Everybody wants to put it on everything, and the whole reason why we did it was to bring up the overall RMS level of the sound that we were dealing with. That was why that's why you can still have dynamics, those little spikes that are in the waveform. Well, sometimes they keep you from getting it all the way up. In a digital world, there's a ceiling. So, we still need that meat that's in there. So that's where the parallel compression will allow you to bring everything up and still keep your spikes on the top, So realizing that when you're doing things like that, don't just do it to be doing it. There should be a reason why, and then don't do it on everything, because if you do it on everything, then all of a sudden everything's in a big wash and it's no longer going to be effective. Hopefully I didn't drop out that time.
No, we got you that time. Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And then too, don't do it on everything, because at a certain point, if you're not making sure you have contrast, you're going to lose depth in the mix because everything is in your face.
Yeah.
What to make it sound more dynamic, not just dynamic, because what he said, bringing it up, making sure you're basically doing upward compression to bring up the softer stuff, and it's making it sound like it's coming forward. So you got to make sure you keep a track of that. But if you don't do it on everything, it gives you depth, because you have something in your face and something that's further back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have a few questions about the business side for royalty split between artist and producer. And I have it written down. I'll read it out. So if a producer assists an artist with fleshing out melodic ideas and chord progressions that's going through the artist's head for composition production, would the producer get full royalties for publishing, or would that be considered co-production because the producer, initially they're the artist's ideas and the producer's helping to bring them to life? Or is it only co-production if the artist lays down the ideas in the DAW and then sends it to the producer to add the finishing touches? That's question number one.
You want to answer that?
Were you saying to me?
Yeah. You want to answer that?
Dave, that's a complicated one because everybody's got ideas. If you got a room full of people and everybody, I think you should do this, I think you should do that, then that gets into a slippery slope where everybody thinks they're a producer or the songwriter, and then you see 20, 30 people on one song, So depend. But one thing that I think
music depends on what, Khalid?
Oh, did I drop out again?
Yeah.
Just for a quick second, just start from depends.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it depends on the deal, the initial deal that between the artist, the producer, the label, if you're dealing with that or whatever. I think that things have changed now where music is more collaborative. And I actually think that to make something really work through, I can't tell you how many times that, you know, and I've seen it myself, Dave, and all that. There's been many times we are uncredited, you know, if not pure writers, you know, we will help develop that process, or pure producers, and we're uncredited. We just become part of that process. I actually think that whole thing should kind of change now and make it more equitable in a different way, because the old way of getting paid for it, to me, is very unfair. It doesn't work. And plus, with streaming and things like that, everybody's making a pittance now anyway. We've got to get creative and find a better way.
Mhm. Yeah, that's right.
So would you
Yeah,
agree that
that's
is something that should still be practiced?
well. This is where I'll say, like Khalid said, we've been dealing with that kind of situation for decades. I mean, even the Funk Brothers and all of them were dealing with it. You know, some of that stuff was not the producer. It would, or maybe sometimes not even the arranger. It could be the musicians hear a line, and that line becomes the song. But if I'm in a situation, and let's say I'm the producer, and you have this idea, you're the artist, is the song finished? If it's not finished, then I should be, especially nowadays, I should be asking for a percentage of the song. Now, we could talk about if it's the music part or the lyrics, but if it's not finished and you don't want to share the credit, finish the song. If you finish the song, then anything else is part of the arrangement or part of the production. But if it's not finished, if there's no bridge, or if there's no this, or there, then okay, if you don't want to share, finish it yourself. Then you won't have to worry about that.
Okay, I guess from the perspective is like, if it's like finished, it's fully written and the chord progressions, everything is done. It's just awaiting production. That's,
Okay.
I guess that was the question with like, and if the artist has, you know, the ideas of the synths, the drums, like the strings, it's just may not have that skill to bring it out. And they're going to produce or to bring what's in their mind to life. Is that, and the artist is sitting with the producer, and maybe the producer's like, is this the synth you're hearing? They're like, yeah, that's the synth. Is that co-production? Or it does, because the producer is using his or her skill set to bring it to life, does that producer get full production? Because I've had debates with different artists and producers, and everybody's got different opinions as per what is co-production and not. And at the end of the day, I want to function the way, like do things right and make sure everybody gets the appropriate credit they deserve.
Okay, well, you know how earlier there was a question about what is the it in the it factor?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel you should try to think within yourself, what is bringing something to life? You know, so that way someone that's either an arranger or a producer can understand what their role is. Because when you say, I just need you to bring this to life, well, what does that mean? The synth sounds, the drum sounds, or whatever, and certain things, if you have the idea yourself, then that's where, if you don't have the sounds, I might pick your brain, try to get an idea, or have you do some research and looking in other music and tell me something that's similar to the sound you're hearing in your head. And then we sit in front of a keyboard and look for that sound or create that sound. See, when I started, we had to create the sound. The synthesizers were programmable, like a Moog, ARPs, stuff like that, to where you had to actually make the sound. Now they give you presets, and some of the presets are great, but if you don't want your sound to be copied easily, then you might find a preset that's close, go inside and edit it and make it into what you want. But still, you got to be able to articulate. You know, you got to, I don't know if Joyce is still on the call, but when I would teach, you had to know how to communicate, articulate, and make a decision. You communicating to me, that's not the sound, I can't help you. I programmed keyboards for decades. But if you say that's not the sound, I can't look at these keyboards and come up with what the sound is unless you have more of an articulate answer. So I could say, oh, okay, well, maybe that'd be better on the Roland, or maybe that'd be better on the ARP or whatever. Then I could start narrowing it down and hopefully get us there. But a lot of that should be done to me ahead of time before going into the studio, because that's a waste of studio time to me. If it's not something we can come up with quick, then we should just take a day and just sit with some keyboards and find these sounds, you know. But if you finish the song, if you wrote the song and you wrote the music, you should have more of an idea of what you're looking for already, hopefully.
Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, you'd have to have an idea. So now if you have an idea, as a producer, I'm gonna get points, I'm gonna get royalty for the actual recording. I'll get that. That's not part of the publishing.
Okay.
But if you have me start to let's say I change something, I change a bass line, because your bass line might be simple. It's almost like I heard a story where Steve Lukather from Toto, guitar player, he heard Michael Jackson beat it, and he decided to make a change to make it more interesting in the main line. Now, it's up to Michael if he feels like that's an arrangement, or if he feels like, you know what, that was so major, I want to give you a part of the song. Okay, that's up to the artist at that time, the writer, rather. That's up to the songwriter, right? And since he was the songwriter, he could do it. Now, if it wasn't his song, if somebody else wrote it and sent it into him, then they would have to get approval from the songwriter if they want to share publishing. But that's just something where it's a tricky thing. And if you have it made up in your mind of what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to sound like, then you should start looking into doing it, you know, or at least creating the sounds and then having somebody play that sound.
Okay, thank you. Wow. So you answered the next question, I guess. Clarification of the royalty pie. So lyrics and composition, that splits that I guess that splits that 100%, the publishing pie, and then the producer's royalties come out of the mechanical pie, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so the next thing I want to clarify, are producer points different from royalties? I've been in different panels or Zooms where people were talking about producer points. Is that synonymous with royalties, or is that different?
No, it's the same. It's just saying it a different way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if a producer is work for hire, does he or she get royalty points?
No, because work for hire means this is it. You're only getting paid what we're giving you today, or what we're giving you for this project. After this is over, you're done. You're done.
Okay. So the artist will own the master. Okay, last question. If someone enters into a co-write with melodic ideas and chords, and the co-writer, contributes both melody and lyric ideas, but however, the song is finished off with another writer, and the first co-writer's lyrics and melodies don't end up being used in the final song, should the first co-writer still be credited and involved in the song splits if their ideas weren't used in the final song?
I almost would get rid of a song if I get into a situation like that, because what you're saying is, let's say if you and I wrote a song together, and some of your lyrics we use, some of your melodies we use. And then I decide to go and write with somebody else. Okay, I don't have the right to take you out of that, because this started with us. So you're not only creating problems, you're creating legal issues if this song comes out, because I feel like I was a part of how you got to where you got to. I was part of the process, and we started the process. It's almost like we both decided to open up what can I say? A chili store. And it starts out with our chili, and then at a certain point you decide, I'm gonna change this, but it has your name on the outdoors and mine. And then you decide you want to cut me out. Well, that's gonna be a little difficult because we started this.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And unless it's something where I say, you know what, I don't want to be part of this song anymore. Unless I say that, and then you get it in writing, so you're covered, like a work for hire, to where you're covered, then you're just creating a problem for yourself.
Thank you. This helps to function with integrity. So these answers really helped out. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And Khalik, if you got anything you want to add, if you're there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, yeah. No, and I mean, everything that you said is right on point.
Oh man.
It's Zoom. I've got.
Oh, okay.
I may end up. I think I'm gonna exit out of Zoom and come back in.
Okay.
Because I think there's something connectivity wise. But that's funny. I've been looking at it. Didn't do anything until I started talking.
I'm just trying to understand, how does it know when to do it?
I don't know.
You can say all kind of words, and then as soon as you say the recipe is.
That's what's fun. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say before it tries to cut me out is also stick with the deal you made up front. You know, people a lot of times want to change things after the fact, and you got to be okay with it. You know, like if I accept something up front and say it's a work for hire, then and it takes off later on, I can't come back later on saying, well, I should get some royalties and percentage of ongoing things. It's not how I started the deal. But you know, and the same thing on anybody's end, just whatever deal you make up front, be ready to stick with it. And then if it does need to change, get it in writing, like Dave said, do a buyout or whatever, or get something that says, okay, here's where we're at now. I can move forward. You're good with this, right? If you are, you're good.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign off and sign back in, guys.
Okay. All right.
Dave, I have a question.
Okay. And at some point, who else is in here that hasn't asked questions? Y'all got to ask some questions. Go ahead, Nettis.
So before heading to the studio to lay vocals, what does pre-production look like to you, and how long might it take?
Well, it depends on how ready the artist is to go into the studio. I don't just go into the studio and you're not ready. That's a waste of money. Pre-production is where you take the time, and if you're working on a timeline and a budget, you should have an idea of how much time you can spend in pre-production, so it makes sense. Or you're doing it off-site at home or someplace where it's not costing you money, but still, I wouldn't want to be in pre-production too long. But you figure out everything so you can go into the studio and get started with everything you thought about and your vision that you had in pre-production. But the time is based on money, and time is based on if the artist is ready. Sometimes it's based on everybody's schedule. You know, if I can't make it until a certain date, and then at that date you're trying to finish the whole project by a certain time, we have to do a timeline so we can see how much time can we spend in pre-production, so we don't waste time from the other areas that we need to get to. But at first I'll start with the artist, their availability, and if they're ready to do it. Technically, talent-wise, are they ready to do it?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I do have a question, because I want to kind of go back to earlier when you were saying, put it like this, do you still believe that artist development is a key factor these days? And should it remain that, or is it based upon the fact about if you're likable? So you know how they say sometimes you ain't got, some of these people out here ain't got zero talent, but because they're likable, that's what kind of catapulted them to the situation they're in. But do you still believe finding that essence of just kind of going back to true artist development?
Well, wow. Hang on one second, guys. Hang on one second.
Is that egg on?
Yep.
Oh, I forgot it.
Hey, leave it to me. I like to get to the juicy stuff here and there.
I thought somebody popped a bottle of champagne.
I know, right? It's Liddy in this live. Let's go.
Probably don't want to mess with that because that's hot.
Y'all stay over to the left. Tayo Joyce. Madison, do you see messages? Yeah.
What, Mike?
Oh, I was making sure Nancy saw your message over there.
Okay, that's my pleasure. And I sent a message to Shadi about mixing, just some of my thoughts, if you're interested.
And Thomas, you ain't got no questions. You got to chime in here sooner or later. Sooner or later.
Okay, I'm back. I'm back, guys.
I think his name was Shadiq. He already asked that question about, being a musician and a producer, and you creating your own music. Do you mix it? He already answered my question. How do you feel about mixing your own music? And is it difficult? Because even as you're creating it, I find with a lot of times when I'm playing, there's certain things that stand out that really I'm not comfortable with, but I'll go ahead and do it. But if I sit down and mix it, it bothers me later on. You know what I mean? If I sit down. So I was just wondering, did he have that issue as well? But Shadiq already asked that question, so I got my answer.
Okay.
All right.
Let me make sure I don't forget the artist. You said artist development? Okay. That was Mo, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's if that's my job. If that's my job to develop this artist, their new artist, then I'll get involved with it. If it's not my job, hopefully they came ready to go. The only thing I'm going to try to develop is to get the most out of them, their talent, their spirit, their energy. But here's the thing. If I'm the producer, I do want to try to take them to another level, because one of the things that I want to try to add to the artist is to make them feel like they pushed themselves, or they got to another level when they were working with me. So that way, when they work with someone else, they'll know a difference, and they'll say, okay, well, I need to get back to Dave Isaac. I need to go and work with him on a couple more songs again, because I just don't feel like I'm learning anything. Sometimes you get these producers nowadays, which really breaks my heart, or bothers me, is where they'll put an artist in a room and they'll just let them do whatever they want to do. And they'll go and have lunch or whatever, and the artist just singing, and there's nobody there to say, how was that, or what to change, or if it's even working. And then I've heard stories where the producer come back in and not like everything. Well, what did you expect? You weren't there. You weren't trying to develop them. You weren't trying to help develop this performance for this song. So, to me, that's not production. That's just laziness. But I would want to try to develop something that makes you feel like this is the best work I've done.
That's exactly where I was trying to get to, is understanding that rapport, where a producer also has to understand that he's a crucial, or she's a crucial to that artist development. Because yes, they may have the skills, but you want to bring them to another level. Like you said, it is disappointing when I've been in studios and the producer just walks up and just hits record. And I'm just kind of like, well, I need that, am I heading in the right direction, or am I going in the wrong direction? Or do you feel that I can do this better, or should I pull back? I've came across that a lot, where I was just kind of like, I don't know if those kind of producers even exist anymore, because they're just here clocking on the dime and not really putting in the effort of the true artistry behind the artist itself. But you also got to say, you being a producer, you are also an artist. You know what I'm saying? You got two artists collaborating here, just because you're not behind the mic singing, but you have the ear to hear. So it's like, if you can bring something out of me that I didn't know I could do, it's a win across the board, because it's self-gratification to know that you are pushing me to my highest limit. And you're pushing, not only you pushing me, but you're pushing yourself to say, hey, if I can get her to get just right here in this situation, I've done my job. So I'm glad thank you for saying that, because I feel like that's being lackluster nowadays.
Well, sometimes you got to do the research on the producer that you choose to work with you, because let's say if I'm a beat maker producer, I might not know how to deal with vocals. I might have to call a vocal producer to come in and work with you when you're doing your vocals. And then when the vocals are over, I go back to producing the track and working with the song itself. Sometimes you could be dealing with an arranger producer where they know how to arrange a song beautifully, but they might not know how to work with vocalists. So you have to do your research on the type of producer you're hiring to make sure it's a producer that can, or their team. Because see, if you have a production team, if vocals are my weakness, somebody on my team knows how to deal with vocals. If arranging is my weakness, then I have an arranger on the team. But the biggest thing is, I'll know before we go into the studio what the rapport will be, and if we're even going to get along, because I'll test you. Like when I mentioned about having someone sing live, so I can find out what I'm dealing with before we go into the studio. Because if I look at a video could be fixed, the demo could be fixed, everything could not truly be you. So I need to hear what I'm working with. So when I have you sing, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to say, okay, Mo, so how did that sound to you? And then the next thing out your mouth will let me know how we're going to work together. Because if you say, I think it was fine, then I say, okay, well, it was, but you didn't choose the right places to take your breath. When that guy walked in, you got a little nervous in that B section, so you got a little flat, blah, 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 blah. Now, the next thing you say, well, let me know if this is cool. If you say, really? Okay, it's going to be hard to work with you because you're testing me already and we're not even in the studio. You haven't paid me $1, but you're questioning me when I'm telling you exactly where you went wrong. But if you say, oh yeah, you're right, because he did make me nervous and I probably did go flat. Now I know we can talk because you're willing to accept criticism, right? So I'm gonna test all of that before we talk about contracts, money. I'm gonna see how simple it would be. Now that doesn't mean that things can't change, because sometimes of the day could be different for you. And I might say, okay, well, we might need to do this more at night when you're a little more relaxed, or have less people in the studio or whatever. I'll peep that out. But I just need to know before we even go day one into a studio, who am I dealing with? And it'll let you know who you're dealing with, because if I can hear that in one, it won't be one take, but let's just say one area of the song that you sing. If I can hear that and tell you that, I should be the guy you want. You know, especially if you didn't hear it. You know, that's what you want, because a producer during the vocals, the producer should be your coach. Every time you sing the song or sing a take, every time you sing a song or sing the take, after it's done and you say, how was that? I should be able to tell you what you need to do when you go back out on that basketball court.
And execute the play accordingly.
That's right. That's right.
I got you.
That's right. Yeah, but if I just say, well, you know, it's cool. You know, we got 10 tracks open. So, you know, just sing another one and just sing another one. And you have no idea what you're doing wrong or right or what to change. Obviously, that's not somebody that's dealt with vocalists. Yeah.
Right. No, I agree with you 1,000%. And I'm coming to notice a lot of things here in Minnesota.
Okay.
I'm just like, yeah. So everything you're saying is just solidified. A lot of these producers here and a lot of the studios that are here is that they're just about the dollar and the dime, and not really about the quality or not about the execution of a product. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what nobody says, whether you're a singer or a rapper, it's still your product. And that product has to be able to sell itself. So if I can convince you, then how am I going to convince the masses? Because it all starts there, right?
And if you're a vocalist, and I'll say singer, because vocalist just sounds technically.
Well, yeah, a singer.
But you should have done your homework to a degree where. Here's another thing that I would do is we sit down, listen to music. I listen to stuff that you like. I have questions. I got like 20, 30 questions I'll ask you. But the answers you'll be giving me will be giving me an idea of what to pull from music in your life that affected you. So I can create stuff that's around you and your life, not just some track I came up with that had nothing to do with you. I would create music and pull in songs that are built around your life, what moves you. And then in the course of that, we're going to talk about different vocalists and their techniques. And we're going to come up with a name or make sure we're on the same page as what that technique is in singing. So breathy, full voice, harsh, you see what I'm saying? Raspy. So that way, when I'm coaching you, I can say, I need you to be a little more of this. You know what I mean? When you get to this section, change your voice, your technique to this. But make sure when you get back to the verse, bring it back down and become more breathy. I got to make sure that I can talk to you in a vocabulary to where we can do now with your talent. The next take is it. It's not where we're constantly trying to fix it together and paste it. No, because if you learn it this way, in the live room, when you go to do it live, you remember all the techniques and you will start to show the singers in the audience your technical ability. If you don't have technical ability, you'll sing the song differently every night. Now, it's fine to sing a melody different. Let's say if your voice is having problems or your throat hurts and you don't want to embarrass yourself hitting this, not being able to hit a note. Okay, you might change the melody here or there based on how many nights you are into your tour. But still, you will have the understanding when I'm at my best. This is where I'm going to be breathy. This is where I'm going to sing out. This is where I'm going to hit my pure tone. This is where I'm going to be raspy. You'll know, and it'll just be like another day at the office. When you see Michael Jackson sing Rock With You, it's the same as it is on the record because it was a technique he used for every sentence or every word. He knew how to hit it with a certain technique in his throat. So now, singing it live and people say, man, it sounds just like the record. That's because he figured all that out in the studio. He's not just singing it haphazardly.
Wow. Thank you. That cleared up a whole lot. Oh, wow. I am so humble.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I want to hear what you do.
I got you.
All right. Come on, guys. Like I said, there's a couple people who hasn't asked any question. Maybe they just hanging.
I have a question, Dave.
Oh, hey, come on.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me well because I'm using my phone microphone.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. I have a question, like what things do you look for and what questions do you ask yourself prior to moving on to the next phase of music production? I found when I work on productions, because I'm the artist, composer, all that, wear all these hats, that I find issues later on, like when I'm mixing, and I have to go back and rewrite and re-record. And I know that wastes a lot of time and money. And I just wanted to see like what things do you do prior to moving on from pre-production, like which consists of like the writing, the composition, and then when you record, how do you know like, okay, this is good, and then moving on from there, and as well as the productions, like programming, different elements, and then moving on to mixing. It's like, okay, now I have instruments covering the frequency spectrum that I want. And then I also like made space for them so that when I mix, I have something good to work with. And it's also conveying the feeling. But how do you know that? And then when you're done mixing, like, okay, like do I have something good enough for mastering? Like what things do you look for? Because I know it's too, when I'm even in mastering, the mastering engineer tells me, you're having some clashing with these elements. Why don't you try doing this and give me other feedback? So I have to go back and mix. So I'm just finding I'm learning all these things by just trial and error, and I don't like it. And if there are any tips, please.
Okay, so let me. Hopefully you got these three. It's three questions, I believe. Hopefully you got them written down so I can, my mind is. But let me try to remember the first one. The first one was how do you know when to move on from pre-production? Was that right?
Yes.
Okay. So in pre-production, you ask yourself certain things that you want to know before we go into the studio. So the keys of the song, basically. And I hope you remember this from the class. The keys of the song and the alternate key, just in case, because I don't want to have to, if there's charts involved, meaning sheet music, I don't want to have to stop and have somebody rewrite the charts or things like that. But most of the LA guys or certain musicians, they can just transpose it quickly. But I want to have that ready, the lyric or the basics of the lyrics. Because sometimes you might change lyrics based on the fact that it's just not singing smoothly. It's hard to say these words in that speed or whatever. So you might change a word from one to another just so you could sing it easier. As far as the sounds, so you with the producer or someone that's handling the sounds, you say, okay, well, this song, I want it to be more like Prince and Purple Rain or whatever. Okay, so then we need Oberheim keyboards, we need a Linn drum, we need certain things that we know Prince used to get close to that sound. Or that's the concept, that's the idea. So even if you had a keyboard that wasn't Oberheim, you're going to look for Oberheim or OBX and OBXA and all those kind of sounds, just to be close when you get into the studio. Because your keyboard player, if you said that, If you told the keyboard players before the studio session date, then they should come up with certain sounds. But if not, if you don't want to leave it to them and you know the exact sound, then you rent that keyboard or you buy that keyboard software instrument. So that way the sound you want is there, you know, because sometimes keyboard players might not have it in their keyboard. You know, you just don't want to leave things to chance. But I would figure everything out. You'd figure everything out as you can beforehand. Then you go into the studio. Now, if you remember the second phase, which is recording, because there's 6 phases, right, Joyce? Wait, where'd you go?
Yeah, right.
Okay, there's 6 phases, right?
Yeah.
So when you go into
recording, overdubs, and then production. Well, oh yeah, there's also post-production, and then there's mixing and mastering.
So pre-production, recording, right? Overdubs, editing, mixing, master.
At the editing start.
Yeah. So when you go into record, you're recording the basic tracks or the base, the foundation of the songs you talked about in pre-production. So now, after we record this bass, we have to ask ourselves, does it feel good? Is the speed good? Is it the right key? Is it the right length? You know, should we do it again where we make it shorter? Now, not to say that you can't change that in editing, but to make it, I would do it again right then and there to leave no room to chance. But that depends on the musicians and how long you got them for and how long it took to get to that song. But if they hit the spirit of it in this take, then it's going to be that, and I'll just edit it. And the thing is, I would edit it right then and there. So that way, if I need a musician, 1 or 2 to fix something, it's happening in this stage, in the recording stage. It's not where I want to get later on down the road and then say, man, I need to make this shorter. Now it's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to call this musician back in. Nope. That's happening today. Articulate, communicate, and make a decision. I'm making a decision today. So as we move forward, it's the base of what we're going to, as it goes through this car wash of phases, we hear it getting better and better and better and better. We don't record everything and then get to the mix stage and tell the mix engineer, make it into a hit record. No, we knew it was a hit when we recorded the basic tracks. We knew this was hot. So then you go into overdub. But before that, before I move on to overdubs, everybody's getting an MP3. So we can listen to it and talk amongst ourselves. Do we think we should speed it up? Should we slow it down? Should we do this? Should we do that? And then we do that before we move on with this song. Once we are prepared to put the finishing touches and the overdubs on it, then we'll move to the overdub stage. But until it feels right, there's no need or I don't understand why you would go forward. It's got to feel right first. Right. Then when you get to the you got natural talent and you got manufactured talent. So during the recording and overdub stage is where I'm gathering all the natural talent from everybody. I'm gathering everybody's natural talent. Then when we get to the editing, I'm manufacturing the talent. I'm making it tighter. I'm making it better, or I'm making it in tune, or I'm adding imperfections, because I can add imperfections and that can make something sound better also. If this is a ballad and a male or female is singing it, and let's say it's about a breakup or something like that, I might take the last word and make it a little flat so it sounds like they were about to break down, sound like they were about to cry. I don't want it in tune. Because if I'm saying, baby, please come back. Come on, baby. That ain't in tune. that's gonna be so sad, so flat sounding, But if I'm excited and I'm like, okay, come here, baby, I might take the first syllable and make it a little sharp so they can hear excitement. So sometimes you add imperfections, but that's where we're manufacturing talent in that stage. And so I hope that answered that first question. Then your second question was what?
Yeah, it's just like all one. I guess the general overarching question is like, how do you know when to move on to the next phase?
Oh,
what kind of questions you ask yourself?
Okay.
So you don't have to rework.
I get you. So at each stage, the people involved, meaning the artist, the producer, I might ask the engineer if it's somebody involved with the project, like a Bruce Swedien or somebody that's major to the project. or maybe somebody at the record label. Sometimes I don't care about the record label because they're thinking about money. So as long as I do what they want for the overall project, that might be all I need to make sure that when they start to hear this in the overdub stage, that they can say, oh yeah, that's going to be great. Or I might just have them come down and give their 2 cents then. But I don't wait till we get to the mixing to ask them to check it out, because I could be putting myself in a trick bag. But with each point, everybody gets an MP3 or some kind of file to where we can listen to it together or separately. Say if we feel like, yeah, I think we got it. I think this is it. I think this is hot. I don't think we're missing anything. Once we agree, then we move to the next stage. You know what I mean? But by the time we get to mixing ain't fixing ain't mixing. So if somebody asks me to fix something in a mix, that drives me insane, because there were so many other places where you could have done that. So just understand, there's a fixing invoice and there's a mixing invoice. So, you know, if there's a tuning invoice, it's not what people are making it. Some people making it out to be today. Where my last engineer, he did all this, he tuned it. Yeah, I'm not that dude, and there's a reason you're not with that person now. You know, let me bring you back down to reality, because you can't ask me to mix a song in 2 days and then send me 50 tracks of vocals and say, but I need these tuned. No, that's another invoice, and that's another amount of time I have to allocate to doing that, if I'm going to do it. But the reason I won't do it, and I know this is kind of taking us off track for a minute, the reason I won't do it is because it opens up a can of worms. If I'm tuning your vocals, and let's say, oh, well, this is great, but this one word needs to be sharpened. Okay, this is where you need to learn how to tune vocals, because I feel like all vocalists should know how to tune and edit their own vocals. So it's exactly what they want. Or they should sit down with someone so they can understand what they have to go through. One, what they have to go through to fix this vocal. And then more importantly, what you're going to have to fix before you do this live. Because I can fix your vocals all day. If your timing is off, you're going to have to do something to learn how to sing this song in time. If your tuning is off, you're going to have to do something to start to hear how to hit it, you know, in the right pitch. So, you know, but if you don't do that, if a singer doesn't get involved, they can come in the next day and say, oh yeah, I killed it. I killed that song. No, dude, we spent 6 hours fixing this vocal. We just didn't tell you, but it took 6 hours to make this up. So I think vocalists should get involved and know, so they can articulate to someone who's even fixing it. You know what I mean? Because there's some albums and projects, I'm sure, where there's some Pro Tools operators and auto-tuning guys that should get a point or some credit for all the work they put into it, you know. And then your last one, Joyce, was about the mixing mastering stage. Was that right?
Yeah, like some things that you check for your mix. Because I found when I take my songs to master engineer, they're saying like, oh, you know, like these pianos are clashing or something. So then they suggest something like doing a dynamic EQ or something, but so I have to go back and fix it, and then you know, it sounds better. Or sometimes I'm missing something in a certain frequency range, or maybe I have too much going on, and I'd like to be able to kind of pre-screen that. I use tonal balance right now to kind of see the frequencies to see if it matches the genre that I'm going for. But just wondering if there's other ways, like you mentioned, also listening to other songs that have a I guess similar sonics and sound that you're going for, maybe analyze this.
I think I got you. And then I see colleagues back, so he could chime in too. The thing for me, I think, is maybe in the early stages of your mix, because you're trying to mix this too, right? Mix it yourself, Joyce?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're trying to mix it yourself, I think in the early stages of your mixing career or learning journey, see if there's someone that you can sit with so you can pick these things out before you go to a master engineer. You know what I mean? It may cost you a little money in the beginning, but you'll be sitting with someone where you can ask them questions and you can learn and you can see how they do it. And then eventually, you know, you can jump out the nest and do it yourself. You know what I mean? But sometimes you might need to see someone or talk with someone that can say, yeah, this is clashing only because this other synthesizer is panned too close to the other one, or they're both too loud. Which one is the main one you want to feature, and that kind of stuff. And, you know, it may not take as long as you think. It could take one project. It may take a few songs, but still that will help you before you get to the next stage where you're mastering, and then a mastering engineer tells you that. Because at the end of the day, I go to a mastering engineer to make sure that things are consistent across the project, to make sure that it sounds just as good or better than what's in the industry or what's been coming across their desk and things like that. But I definitely don't want to have to go back to the drawing board or go back to another phase because a master engineer says, I think you should do this and do that and blah, 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 and go back. Because you also, when you make decisions, you also have to stand behind your decisions. You know what I mean? I've heard stuff where it's too much distortion. I've heard stuff where it might be too loud, especially in the 70s, because, cocaine was a hell of a drug. So in the 70s, you might have some toms that were loud, and some of this is in an Elton John, like Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, or Someone Save My Life Tonight. I'll be laying there relaxing, then a tom come in and make me sit up in my bed because it was louder. But cocaine was a hell of a drug, but it gave you this feeling. And there was this dynamic between the silence or the soft part and these toms. The toms were to wake you up and let you know it was about to be this big soaring thing. But you wouldn't hear those kind of dynamics today. You just wouldn't hear it. They're parallel compressing. They're doing so much stuff that it's just that those dynamics don't really exist in popular music. But sometimes you have to stand behind your decision. And the master engineer would just have to deal with it. But if you've been truly learning your craft, you'll know if what they're saying makes sense, But hopefully, between the nucleus of the people that are involved with the project, like I said, at every stage when you listen to the MP3 and you guys sit together and decided we should go to the next stage, you guys will catch that. But in your journey, since you're trying to do it all yourself, like I said, find someone and just ask them to, whatever that would cost, or, barter or whatever, and just say, can you listen to my project and let me know if you hear anything, or if anything is fighting or masking is happening, or I should pan this over to get this out the way. Because sometimes it's just simply as panning something in a different place, or making sure that everything is in stereo, because everything doesn't have to be stereo. I only need a couple of things in the project for the most part, in the drums and percussion, the harmonic elements, and then the vocals. I only need a couple of things to make you think stereo and perceive stereo. When I see people record keyboards and synths and all this stuff, and everything is stereo, that now, if it was given to me at some point, if it's not crucial, I might make it mono, just so I don't have to deal with masking as much and issues, panning. And the crazy thing is they'll never know, because sometimes, I might say, why you record everything in stereo? Well, that's the way it came up in Logic. That doesn't mean you had to record it that way. You know what I mean? Well, I'm preaching, but colleague, somebody jump in.
Yeah. Man, you're so right, though. I mean, a big part of one of the biggest lessons that I learned is watching the late, great Al Schmidt. When I first started at Lion Share Studios, Al Schmidt was working there a lot, and I didn't know anything, but I knew of him. And I got to admit, in my younger days and everything, you walk in and you're thinking, oh, I can do what these people do and such and such. So when I saw Al Schmidt doing stuff at first, my little ego was talking to me, because I'm watching him and it didn't look like he was hardly doing anything. So, I can do that, shoot, that ain't nothing. I can do that, getting up in there. And then what I found out over time as I grew through the skill of not doing something, less is more. That's what he had mastered. He knew the right mics to choose. He knew all these things in front. So when you're mixing and things like that, many times your answer is going to be less is more. Herbie Hancock taught me that same lesson one time, because we were working on a project and Herbie put all kinds of overdubs and everything on and left it to me to mix. And then he came back in and I had everything in there, trying to find this place, and it was sonically sounding good and everything. But he's like, why you got all this stuff in here, man? He's like, I just put the ideas in now. It's up to you to take some of that stuff away, because that all isn't meant to be heard at one time. Some things need to be subservient to others. If it either mute it or duck it down and in and out the way, that's going to take away 90% of EQ problems, like Dave was saying, if you make everything stereo, then it's just dual mono on both sides. Everything's going to sound the same. Some things, you know, get rid of a side or bring them down in the same place and maybe even have the ambience on the other side or whatever. But minimalizing things as I've gotten older and found out different techniques, a lot of times less is more, which we probably all heard since as long as we've been out here, but you don't appreciate what it really means. Learn to strip away things and you'll probably get to your answer, a better sonic and a sound and a more consistent sound. So when you go to that mastering engineer and he's telling you to go back to the drawing board, like Dave said, you don't want to have to go back for anything. So maybe strip your stuff down to the bare minimum and identify what are the 2-3 main things besides the vocal that if everything else has gone away, I still have my song. The essence of my song is still there. Then that's kind of giving you the answer right there. Get those things happening. It's usually a lot less than you think. You know, you usually don't need as many things in your face and as powerful and all that as you think, you know. Get your center stuff going, a few things off to the side, and you'll be good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dave and Khalik. That's very helpful.
Did I drop out that time?
No, it was perfect.
Oh,
it was a Bluetooth or something.
Yeah.
Finally, we got an answer that we could hear the whole time.
And it was Morse code. We appreciate it.
Yeah. I went disconnected everything. I was like, let me microphone and camera. That's it.
Hey, Khalik.
Yeah.
Hey, man, because I tried that with the AirPods too, and I just realized nope.
Yeah, right. So I got me a hard wire here and all that, and
yeah.
Too funny. Hey,
Dave. Right. Oh, Dad has a question. He asked me to ask you guys. He says, out of all your work, is there a track that puts you in awe of what you did? Like somewhere you step back and you're like, oh damn, ooh, I did that.
It's too many for me, but there's one project that I did. Khalik will remember this for sure with the Paris. You remember Paris, Khalik? You remember
sure.
that you remember that unit we used to have?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
it sounded great, but it was horrible to work with. It was so many glitches and problems.
Oh,
but
I
did a project with a trumpet player named Patrick Stewart, and it could be a few things that's involved. It could have been the console because we were working with the Euphonics console at the time, but we were working with Paris, and Paris just had a sound. It was an Ensoniq project. Brand rather, and the mixes came out in a way to where I've had 3 people from outside of the U.S. tell me that they learned how to mix listening to that album and trying to recreate the sonics of that album. And years later, I wish I had kept the Paris. Even if I had just used it for ins and outs and just to get the sound of it. I would have kept it just for that. But I think nowadays RME is close to that sound. RME products are close to that sound. But as far as just overall, yeah, that's a hard one for me. Khalik, you got one?
Now, what was the basic question, the premise of the question again? So I'm sure I'm answering the right part of it.
Is there something that you worked on where when you go back and you listen now, you're in awe of what you actually did? Like, wow, really did that.
I'll be honest with you. I never like anything I do because I'm always learning and trying to get better. And so, I know I can relax because Dave said it a long time ago as well. You got to just commit to what you do, and be okay with it, whether it's perfect or not. But I'm never satisfied. I know so much more now with every moment. And even in this conversation we're having today, I'll in my mind, I'll be like, I could have did this better, did that better, or whatever. I'm okay with where I had to leave it off at, but I'm never happy or satisfied, unfortunately. So there's no project that I go back and be, oh yeah, I did that shit. No, yeah. My best work is still yet to come.
Yeah.
That's right. Now and I we're sitting up listening to music and paying attention to the background stuff, because there's so much stuff influencing us in the background. It's like trying to ignore, like you hear this lead vocal or whatever, but there's stuff in the background, like you can tell there's a lot of work being put in. Like take Teddy Riley. It'd be a pause or somebody say something and then he accents something, or something might be done to throw you off, whatever. There's a lot of stuff in the background that's communicating and pushing and pulling on you. Do either of y'all put a lot of work into the background stuff?
Yeah, that's the subliminal stuff, you know. That's that little stuff. Watching Teddy do some of the stuff that he did, and there's a lot of little things that, you know, Teddy Riley is one of those guys. He's probably responsible for more top engineers out there for the little stuff that he shows people, and he knows how to do, and he puts you on the path to do. So I appreciate that bit of it, because, and it's, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Mott, because that's the unappreciated part, that a lot of people look for these big broad stroke things, and it's those little things that can make all the difference in the world that people cannot ignore or overlook, but they tug at you emotionally, subliminally. You don't even know stuff is messing with you, and it's an art to doing that as well, art to identifying what it can be, and you know, changing things up, pushing things to the edge. You know, I in my head knew technically that plugins, for example, have a sweet spot just like analog gear does. But Teddy was the one that actually showed me that, because he would bring out some stuff and push into it in different ways, different little areas, and then, you know, yeah, right there, that's it. Or he'll grab an attack, and then it'll get that little thing that you want on the beginning, and it falls, and it makes the groove fall in a certain way, and it's or the release will, you know, give you that push and pull, you know, just on the front end or back end of the groove. Little stuff like that, you know, you don't necessarily appreciate, you know, reverbs and effect stuff and all that. It's that little stuff that is going on in the background, little vocal things that you process. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people overlook that. They just kind of look at the obvious stuff that's in your face, that little delicate stuff. It really messes with you subliminally, your listener, and takes them on a journey that they don't even know they're going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's so true, man. I mean, there's actually two areas that, you know, if you guys are listening to your music, especially if you talk about somebody like Teddy Riley, there's things he wants you to notice, and then there's things he wants you to feel. The things that you feel, sometimes you're gonna notice. I mean, a funny thing, and Khaled could definitely remember this, a funny thing we used to do with NS10s is we would go by the air that was coming out of the port, and we'd know when that low end was right. And it's funny, because it would be right on the edge of, if you don't be careful, you might blow the woofer. But once we got that air coming out of that port, we was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be nice on the radio. That's gonna be nice. So it's just, you know, some things I feel. You know, everything doesn't have to be heard. Some things need to be felt, or should be felt. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's called farting. We used to make the NS10s fart.
All right, looks like we got someone new in, Ebony Oya. She looked like she about to eat though.
I am.
Did you didn't bring enough for everybody?
I'm sorry,
gotta share.
My aunt was like, "Are you coming in?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I'm kind of like eating my.
I'm so glad that we don't do all that, colleague, when we see each other. Hey, man.
You know, you guys want to. You actually want to go, hey, but you just.
No.
I know they're trying to play coy. They know deep down inside that's what they're doing. Okay?
No, but they come there.
You got any questions, Evan?
Yeah, or introduce yourself at first.
Well, I am a singer-songwriter stroke producer now. I've literally been producing for about the last 3 years, like so throughout the lockdown until now. I did it a little bit before, but I was really pants at it. Like I was like the worst. And now I've got like really, really good. So the consistency of me learning has really worked out well for me. And and so now I'm building tracks quite quickly. Because I was I've been songwriting for ages, but making music itself, I used to try and get everybody else to do it for me, because I couldn't do it. And now I'm building tracks, enjoying doing it, working out the melodies myself, singing them into the mic, turning them into MIDI, and then reworking them in their MIDI form. So I'm really enjoying doing that. I'm doing my master's in producing now as well. I'm nearly finished. So, and then I'll be doing some form of writing afterwards, which would be kind of cool. One of my tutors is like, you gotta write for me. I want you to help me. So that's a win.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you're recording some things with your vocal, and then you change it into MIDI and have it play musical elements. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I worked out not so long ago actually that I can actually do that, because before I was getting other people to come in and play stuff. So I do have live stuff played sometimes, but when I'm just trying to get an idea out, I hum it into the microphone, the idea, and then I turn it into MIDI, and then turn it into whatever instruments I feel like it should be. And I've been doing that for a couple of weeks and creating some really cool stuff. Yeah.
That's there were artists that used to do that. There was artists that used to do that for musicians. You know, Marvin Gaye being one of them. He would sing these harmonies that he would want the keyboards or the strings or something to play. But then once everybody heard it, they ended up keeping his vocal. You know, because it just sounded so amazing.
I do things like I put like fuzzy wah and like I mess around with pedals a lot on my vocals.
Oh wow.
And change the sound. So sometimes it'll sound like a guitar, and other times it will sound like a saxophone. I just go a little bit, you know.
Okay, well, I want you to get my email address from Maud. I want to hear what this sounds like.
Okay, sure thing.
Yeah, I want to hear that. That's amazing. All right, so somebody.
Hey, Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Jed. Look at that move back there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is that? What is that? Say that again, Maud.
I was just telling Ebony to hit the mute button.
Oh,
sorry, my bad.
What else is that under there? Looks like a Korg or Yamaha.
That's a Roland G8.
Oh, okay. They all starting to look the same now. So what you got, Jared?
Man, you know, I just want to, as always, thank you for all the work you've done for me, man. I mean, what can I say? You are definitely somebody that's worthy of note, that should be praised for your talent and your career, man. I'm honored to be associated with you.
Oh wow, thank you, man. You're trying to get this George Foreman side dude to get all teary-eyed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank both you and Khalik for your expertise on your responses, especially on that work for hire issue that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to basically just ask you, what advice you have, going forward for me, because I'm getting close. We lost Bernard Wright, man. So,
right.
Have to talk to his wife about, a couple of things, to go forward.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect story. I mean, is that something you want to share with everybody? Because that'll let them know how real it is. It's real talk.
Yeah, over the course of several years, I've been working on my project. Just got to the point of releasing it this year, and I did not get the work for hire agreements up front, and try to do it on the back end at the advice of my lawyer. And he explained to me that, it's a great project because he heard it, but what if Sony approached you and said, we like your project. We want we might want to sign you, you know, but you got to get everybody on here. Do you have your work for hires in place, you know, releases? And I was, man, it never dawned on me to do that because I hadn't gotten that far along in my personal project. So I went on the back end doing it and got everybody to sign down to a couple of folks. And some folks threw up their hands in the air and didn't want to sign. And in this particular case, we lost Bernard Wright, and he was one of the musicians I was just about to go. And because he had been out of town living with his wife in Arizona and moved back to Dallas. And I found out he was back in town. I was going to go and talk with him about it and see if he was agreeable to sign and release his work, you know. And man, unfortunately, within 2 days, I got the news that someone had killed him, man. Just ran over him and killed him while he was walking on the street.
So that's the perfect example, everybody, that you know, before you move on to the next stage, before you know, and typically, I think you might remember, Joyce, in the class, I would teach that, you know, sometimes I wouldn't even be the one responsible for that because I want to stay creative. I want to stay in the music mindset. So I might have a project coordinator go to everyone on a lunch break or before they leave the session to sign off on their work for hires. Because as soon as they leave the session, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And then you're trying to, like in your case, Jared, talk to the estate or the wife to get clearance. And if she's not in the industry, you know, not that she might not care, she might not know what it is. So she might need time to educate herself to know if she should sign this or not. You know what I mean? And that could hold you up, especially like you said, if you were about to get signed to a label or something like that. Now it's holding up the process because she wants to educate herself, which is fair. She should be able to educate herself before she signs something. But that just goes to show if you had got it then, you wouldn't have had to worry about it. With the other guys or people who were throwing up their hands and not wanting to sign, I would have found that out before they played, you know what I mean? So then that way, after they play it, you're covered. But if you wait and, you know, if it's been, you said a few years, life can change for people. Some people could get better with life. Some people could see things differently, and they might have done it out of the kindness of their heart at the time. But then once they start to have other things hit them in life or just be in a weird space, they might just say, no, man, no, I'm not signing nothing. Okay, well, that's part of doing business. That's just work for hire. It's not new. But, you know, if they're not the feature, if they're not soloing, then what else did they think they were going to be? Is you don't get points off of it. You don't get royalties from it. Now the only thing you're doing is holding up me putting this project out. You know, so if they really thought about it, or, you know, they would just realize that that's just wrong, because otherwise, what was the purpose of doing it? But now, you know, if you can't get that from them, you're tasked with trying to figure out how to replace it. You know, how to get somebody to give you that same thing. Now, it's a little bit easier because it's a little bit easier because there's a finished song. You know what I mean? That whoever replays it can listen to, and they can hear the actual parts. But it's still, you might have become married to the sound and the energy that the first person gave you, and then now you're trying to ask somebody to come in and do the same exact thing. You know, and that's gonna be harder. You probably do better just telling them to play and do them versus trying to recreate what the other person did.
Yeah, well, the last one you mixed for me, man, you did such a wonderful job, Dave. You outdid yourself, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
I actually muted the drum parts on it and just let him play whatever he heard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm happy with what he heard. Other folks that heard the song before, man, that made a big, huge difference. So yeah, it can work both ways.
Yeah. You just got to understand. You got to let it go. Young guy that I'm mentoring, been mentoring him for years, named John. Some of you might know John Bouchard, but he lost the song. Somehow he lost the drive, or he lost the song, and he's trying. And you know, and he felt like it was his best work ever. And I was like, well, it's in heaven now. You just got to let it go. You know, you just got to recreate it, but don't think you're going to make it exactly what it was before, because that's impossible. You know, but no one has heard it yet. So you just do the best you can to recreate it. You know what I mean? And you're the only one that knows, so you just got to let it go, man. You just got to let it go, you know, or keep trying to look for the drive, keep trying to find the project. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
You're
Question?
welcome. You're welcome. Who is that?
Me. I just wanted to know, because at the moment I've created music, but it's kind of got like funk references more vocally, and I just wanted to know, is it right to me not to put as much like reverb or anything like that on a vocal if should I keep it as dry as possible? Because I keep getting told that I should keep it dry as possible. But then I'm like, I like it, but I'm unsure because I like my voice in different ways. So
You're producing it?
yeah.
You're the artist?
Yeah.
Then you do what you want to do. You do what you make it whatever you want it to be, what represents you. Now, let's say 2 years from now, a year from now, whatever, when you do another project, you might be in a different space. But that way, a listener, somebody who follows you, can see your growth. They can see how you evolved. You might have started out with reverb and stuff like that, and then you might have gotten to a place where you decided to make things dry or whatever, but still, that's you. You know what I mean? It'd be nothing worse than to put something out, to me, nothing worse than to put something out and then you feel like that's not what you wanted. That's not you. There's nothing worse than that. Because now you hate hearing that song and you hate hearing that project. You know? Yeah. Come on, colleague, jump in there, man.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We don't hear you, Khaled.
Yeah, we see you talking. We just don't hear you. They say something. Oh yeah, you gone. And see, Khalid be one of the most technical ones of us when it comes to this. He'll have a whole elaborate setup and just elaborate. Just man, I'd be like, man. And yeah,
well, sometimes that's the thing, man. You know, I'll never forget working at a guy's studio, and he had a console, but he had one of those small single fader USB port on the console. I'm like, what? But no. Sometimes you know things happen, man. This happens. I've seen this kind of stuff, man, all my life. That it's just so happened. That's what happened that day. You there, Khalid?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
You hear?
Yeah,
you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, what's probably happening is, like I said, I just came back in from working in Vegas, and like I got my mixer here on my lap down here by my feet, and cables all over just to get hooked up. So it ain't right.
That's all right.
I don't know what's going on, but I'll get it figured out after I get on here.
See, look at that. He said all of that and no breaks. Soon as he gets to the secret sauce, it's going to jump out.
Did it go out again?
No, it didn't go out at all. Somehow,
okay.
Yeah, it knows you're not dropping gems right now, so it's staying up.
Yeah.
Right. It's been a hater.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say about things like reverb and things like that. It's really not about all that because, like, you know, Dave was saying, it's about you and what you like. If you're hearing the song and you're hearing the reverb around your voice and it's appropriate for the song, then put it on there. Now, here's the thing, though. You have to decide why you're putting things like that on there. Are you putting it on to a lot of people, especially when they're first starting, use reverb and stuff like that to kind of hide flaws. So if it's for that reason, then that's not a good reason. You know, you ought to be able to, if you wanted to put a real short reverb on and just have it kind of be in a space where it blooms a bit, you can see what that is. But the best test is to just simply turn it off and on and see, you know, just mute it and unmute it to your effect and see what kind of thing that it's adding to the song. If it's just making your voice swim for no reason, then you're trying to hide some flaws. But if it's part of the song and it adds an ambience that's appropriate for that song, let it swim. There's plenty of classic hit songs out there right now that are swimming in reverb by today's standards. So you can't go by that because they're still, if they're a classic song, you can still play it 40 years from now. And that what was considered too much reverb for the time that might be in now is still perfect for that song. So don't get hung up in that. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. I literally it's not that I'm hiding my vocal, because I the way the track actually is quite quite floaty and a bit out there anyway, but like it also has like a lot of the way that I've sang it rhythmically is kind of funk, so that's why they were telling me to pull out the reverb, because it doesn't match. So
well,
yeah, I get what you mean.
else. Here's something else though that you can try too. This is something that we know. Sometimes it's not reverb; it might be delay. So keep both options happening.
That's right.
You know, and try switching it out. You know, if reverb is first and you try it, but let me see what it sounds like if I put a delay instead of the reverb. That might give you the same thing you want.
That's right. That's right. There's a question in the chat from how do you say it? Odat? Or Oda? Now we can't hear you.
I think so that, but go ahead.
Okay. Where he's saying for the most part, verbal contracts are valid. I really wish you would unmute your microphone and explain why you feel that way. I mean, yes, there are verbal agreements, but there's something else to a verbal agreement that would make it valid.
And what is that?
Well, I'm looking to see if he's going to unmute his microphone so I can see if he knows what that is. Because right now, you know, you guys have always heard he said, she said. So even with a verbal contract, is that him? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm dealing with some legal issues now, nothing related to the industry.
Okay.
I've done a lot of digging into verbal contracts, and they are valid, is the ultimate point of it. And more so to the standard, as I said, the standard practice. Is it reasonable or is it unreasonable? Like for that situation for a work of hire, is that a common occurrence? Now, I know it can split up and be diversified to not be, it can be a part of the project, but pertaining to that particular person that unfortunately met his demise in a not so good way, was that something he would a way of business that he would ordinarily conduct himself? Is that something that he would sign on for frequently, you know, as a standard practice of his? You know, so it's like the standard practice of the business, and then there's the personal standard practice. Those are things that if it came to law, if it came to a courtroom, that those would be, you know, factors in that.
It depends, because first of all, like I was starting to say before you got on, there's this he said, she said thing. So unless there's another witness in the room, you could say I agreed to whatever. That doesn't mean that you can take that to a courtroom. That's just hearsay. As far as, let's say if you had a recording of it, because that's another way to have a verbal contract, where I use my phone and record you saying that, you know, you agree to this work for hire, blah, blah, blah. Well, if we're in person, you might as well just sign the contract.
Right.
Why have me record you when you can just sign it? But now if it's, if I wanted to be a stickler in court, I could say that's not me. Now, you know, you'd have to try to, somebody's attorney had to try to get me to say the phrase so we can see if it's me, and, you know, but it just creates difficulty. So I get verbal contracts, but to me, a verbal contract, for me, that's just me, a colleague, you can chime in on it, but for me, a verbal contract could be until we have a contract in place. But to move forward, because I guarantee you, Jared, who was just talking about having to deal with people who wouldn't sign the work for hire, I guarantee you they had a verbal agreement to work together when these people played or sang on the project. So obviously that person didn't feel like agreeing to it anymore. You know, so that verbal, hey, yeah, man, I do that for you, no problem, went by the wayside. Right. You know, people can get amnesia over time. You know, well, I could say that we're going to split, you and I, Oda, we're going to split everything, we're going to split everything 50-50. I could say that in the beginning. And you know what? If it sells over 1 million copies, man, I'm going to send you and somebody else on a trip. Okay, Yeah, we got a verbal agreement. Now let's see what happens years later or a year later when it sells $1 million. And you come up and remind me of, oh, remember you said when it hit this, you were gonna give me us a gift. Well, no, man, I don't remember that. I never do that. I don't think I've ever heard myself say that to anybody, not even my mom. So, you know what I mean? Verbal.
Yep.
It's tricky. That's just me. But I definitely wanted to touch on that when I saw that in the chat.
Sure, I understand. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the integrity of the people, and who knows what's going on with all the individuals.
No. Let me add on to that. Let's just say with Jared's issue, Bernard Wright gave him a verbal agreement, and then he gets killed. So how does his wife know you had a verbal agreement? See, you gotta take everything. You gotta take out all the what ifs out of the picture.
Right.
Because a verbal agreement between you and somebody that, and you said, I think someone that you were dealing with met their demise, but that only, yeah, man, ooh, that's walking a tightrope to me.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I'm not saying it's not. Yeah, I agree 100% getting stuff in writing, of course, naturally. But in some instances, when it doesn't happen.
Yeah. And you know what? I guess I'm getting old. I just said I could put it on my phone, record it. I could record you in video saying it.
Exactly, you know.
I got a smartphone, but I'm not so smart yet. But thank you for that question, man. The colleague, if you want to chime in on that one, man.
I want to just tag in on that. I'm checking to see y'all can hear me, right? Okay. So here's something that I think would be helpful because, you know, when we were all coming up back in the day and up until recently, everything was done with you know, either you relied on somebody having integrity, so you make an agreement and you're in the room, and you know, it used to be a shake hand or, you know, yeah, we agree and all that, and you do it. Those days, it's a whole different time now, but something that can help everybody now because we have the technology is like, for example, we were talking about works for hire and things like that. What you can do now, what I would suggest to anybody to do to make sure that you lock that in is simply when you hire somebody to do something, in order for them to get paid, you build out a web page that has a DocuSign document on it. Say, okay, here's the link, go to this link and so you can get your money. Thanks for doing the session, such and such, to go there. They have to do a DocuSign on that page, which is their digital signature, to get the link to get their money sent to them, Venmo, to their bank account, PayPal, or check, or however you're going to do that, direct deposit or whatever. But if they go in front and use a DocuSign or something like that in front, that establishes the work for hire. Because at one time when I had a lawyer that told me, he's like, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So do something like that now. Use the technology we have to get somebody, once you write out what it is, have them sign it so they can get the link to get paid, and then they get their check, and nobody can ever come back and say, well, no, I didn't agree and it's not a work for hire. You had to get your money and get paid. You had to do that.
That's brilliant, man. I never thought of that one. That's brilliant. I mean, when I mentioned earlier, guys, about the project coordinator, especially if it was for a record label, you're not getting paid until you sign everything you're supposed to sign. You're not getting paid. So that's the today's technology version of that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. That helped me. Thank you, colleague. But did that help you? Well, we'll have to.
Oh yeah, no, I've actually had to do that myself last year. I used the DocuSign thing, and it was really inside. I was like, wow, I didn't know they did this. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, man, I like that.
I have a question. All right, producing somebody's vocal. How is somebody supposed to learn? Well, right here, you should hit falsetto. Right here, whispery voice. Right here, pure tone. I don't even know what pure tone is. But all these different vocal inflections, how is a person supposed to learn all of that stuff to where you can then even tell a person, do this right here so it can bring out this type of emotion?
You want me to hit it first, colleague?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, and I think you and I talked about this once before, when a person starts to get into their craft, if let's say if I'm a guitar player and I'm practicing guitar, not just playing out of a book, but I'm practicing guitar. So I'm learning how to play Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm learning how to play George Benson. I'm learning how to play. I will discover certain things, especially if I start to ask other guitar players, man, how is he playing it? The crazy thing is when I got to a certain point with playing guitar in my early years, I could hear where on the neck or what strings they were using. And it allowed me to really make it sound like the record. Now, if I'm a singer and I'm practicing singing, I'm going to study the singer and how they're using their voice. But sorry, I'm talking about old school, because some of that, I don't know if I could do that today. I would have to be a kid trying to do, see, I can't see myself trying to learn to sing like BTS or something. I don't know what the kids today try to emulate. But if I'm learning how to sing like Marvin Gaye, I'm learning how to sing like Stevie, and some things I'll find it's just not me. I can't hit that, or that's not my range, or the way Stevie changed his voice to technically sound like he's using a different area of his throat or chest or something. Now, as I reach for that, I have to give it a name if I'm ever trying to express that to someone else. Now, if I'm not dealing with other people, I can just sing. And then the producer or somebody might say, man, what is that part of your voice? What is that? Okay, well, that's where I call that raspy, or that's where I sound hoarse, or I start the syllable where it sounds like I'm waking up, but then I go into the word with my full tone. All right, so, but if you're not trying to learn how other people are technically singing, how do you learn how someone else is technically playing? If I'm a piano player, I got to learn how Art Tatum or somebody is technically playing this. If it's classical, I got to learn or look at the book to see how they're technically playing this. Now, the only time I don't have to is if I'm Stevie Wonder or somebody where I'm blind. Now I can play it however I got to get to it, because I don't, but ultimately you're trying to learn techniques and you're trying to develop. It's like Bruce Lee. I'm trying to find what works for me. I'm going to study all this stuff and find what works for me to where I can totally express myself. So if Mariah Carey starts out breathy, I have to have a name for that. So if you're not sure what that's called, ask singers, call people that you know that sing and ask them, what is that called? When they save the biggest part of certain notes for their purest tone, you try not to. I take that back. There are people who will sing the whole record from beginning to end with that tone, and it just sounds like the song is not evolving anywhere. But if you save it for certain areas, that's where the money is. People can't wait till you hit that tone, But you find these things to where eventually you can emote a feeling after you have enough of these talents to where now you need to know all the lyrics of the song and melody. Brian McKnight is going to be Brian McKnight. Just give him the lyrics and he'll know how to express certain things to make a woman feel a certain way. Luther would know where he could go down to the, ooh, he'll know. But what do you call that? He had to create that, and then he gave it his own title of when he would do that. You know what I mean? So you just have to learn how to create characters. You know what I mean? Lionel Richie, let's say, for example, he didn't talk like he sang Brick House or Walter Orange. They didn't talk like that in real life. I've known and talked to Boosie for years, but I think behind closed doors, Boosie's not talking about him. Oh yeah, baby bubble, what it be like, baby? I don't think he talked like that.
Can I
But
just say something?
Huh?
What I've done, because there was a young lady in my class that was asking me for that particular reason. And I got her to write down all her lyrics, and then next to each section I put the emotion in which she wanted to sing each part in, and then every time she got to that part I'd remind her of where she's supposed to go just by saying the emotion. And sometimes if they've already kind of know what their voice can do to how far their range is, or whatever the terminology is, I don't know everything, but yeah, then they can pick up that information and then be able to use it in those particular areas. So sometimes it's just worth just writing down the whole lyric and then just put in the section what I do for myself as well as I color them, because dyslexic, so it helps me to remember which part. So that's another thing as well. And everybody's sometimes people are not physical learners. Sometimes they read and they pick it up that way, or sometimes or colors help, or other areas in which they can pick up the information. So I just thought I might add that in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's something that could be done because, like I said, if you're really trying to be a singer, you're going to follow that journey anyway. But if you can also learn to sing a song and do a dance routine, be where you need to be by the bridge so you can do these steps with the dancers behind you, or move out the waves and get over here where the fan is going to blow on you and look like your clothes are blowing. If you can remember all that, as a singer, you should remember techniques. You should, it's not just singing a melody. And then if you know what works, if you know what moves people, what moves men, what moves women, what make people want to get up and dance, back in the old days, what would make a woman pass out? If you remember that, okay, I got to pick and choose where I do that. I got to put it in certain areas to make this word stand out. Now, let's say Michael. If you listen to Michael when he was 10, They'll Never Can Say Goodbye. In the pre-chorus, when he would say never can say goodbye, he knew how to say it in a soft tone as a 10-year-old. When he got to the verse, you started to hear more of his actual tone, his actual pure voice, but not completely. And then when he got to the pre-chorus, or the B section, what we used to call it, he starts to open up more. And then when the chorus comes, he's singing Never Can Say Goodbye at a totally different place in his voice and a totally different dynamic. And then by the second chorus, second verse, never can say, he's back there. So even at 10, he was a stylist because he was involved with a label that had only adults that knew how to sing. So he had to learn that if he was going to try to compete with them and not get his butt whooped from daddy after the session. So, so when you hear him doing that same thing to the 10th Degree and Rock With You or something like that, well, he was supposed to be Thriller. If he's singing like that at 10 and competing with adults, he was supposed to be Thriller if he stayed true to his journey of wanting to be the best. He was supposed to, but it allows you to sing a song. All you have to do, depending on the size of your catalog, all you have to do is sing the song and you remember where you're supposed to do certain inflections and things like that. But if you don't have anything like that, now you're just trying to, remember the lyrics, try to make it convincing to people. If you have techniques and you've recorded that and that's what the world heard first, all you have to do is sing the song and it should move people. And after a certain point, let's say, because Michael Jackson singing Rock With You after, we're talking about Rock With You was 79. So of course, 10, 15, 20 years later, he's going to try to add something else to it because he's just tired of singing it the same way he did in the beginning. But he at least knows what the foundation of it's supposed to be, what the basics are supposed to be. Frank Sinatra, if he's saying love and marriage in the studio live with the band, reading sheet music, because Frank would read sheet music, then, he could change it, but he knew at least what the base foundation of the song was. And if you knew Frank Sinatra, you knew not to tell him about changing anything anyway, because you end up in Vegas in the dirt somewhere.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, if anybody has Paramount Plus, have you ever seen this movie called The Offer? A series, not a movie. It's a series called The Offer. It's about how the Godfather was made. True story.
Oh, no, I got to check that out.
You got it. It's awesome. I mean,
it's good.
Oh, it's amazing. You never would have known. But when you said Frank Sinatra, I mean, it goes through all that stuff and the Godfathers of the mafia, how people were against that movie being made and how it got done and ended up becoming the legend that it is. There was a lot of stuff in there. If you get a free temporary pass to Paramount Plus for it and then watch that, if you don't do nothing else, it's incredible.
All right.
So, Malik, would you answer that too, please? Add to it, I mean.
Remind me again. What we talking about? I got off on The Offer and I lost my track.
How do we stay as good looking as you?
I gotta say, you in trouble.
I was you know, like you and Dave were running down earlier, falsetto, full tone, a bunch of stuff, and I was asking, like, as you're working with a singer, how is a person supposed to learn to tell a singer right here sing falsetto to bring out this emotion, right here do a whisper, sing it with a whisper, like rise into it, like rise into this note at the very beginning, rise into the note, all that little intricate stuff. How's a person supposed to learn all that stuff so that they could work with a vocalist, like to become a vocal producer and work with a vocalist and tell them that?
Okay, now I remember. Yeah, and it's interesting because for me now, one thing you have to realize, like as a producer, you know, and Dave, I'm sure he goes through it. Most people go through it. I hear the song finished in my head, no matter what stages it's in. I can hear the potential of where it's supposed to be. It's done, you know, whether it's very bare bones and very rough around the edges or whatever. My mind immediately hears the finished place where it needs to be. And so as a producer, whether you're doing vocals, and this also applies to the instruments, you have to, first of all, assemble in your mind, and more so than your mind, in your spirit, what the final thing is. You have to have a clear vision in your mind's eye and your mind's ear of what that needs to be. You know, you remember this, one of my sayings is, the song will tell you what it wants, you know. Now, but you got a problem here, a potential problem. Okay, like for me, for example, I don't consider myself a singer, and I'm shy, so I don't like to sing out there. I know I can't sing, but I know when I put my mind to something, I can get enough of a melody to sing and demonstrate something. I had to train myself up, so I had to learn that skill just enough to be able to demonstrate what I'm talking about. And it wasn't about doing the execution where I had to learn how to be this great singer, because you can't do that. It's not what I do, you know. Same thing with a guitar thing and all that. It's not what I do, but I can pick up a guitar and show you generally how it should feel. I can tap on some drums and say, okay, I hear what you're doing and everything, but we need to lay back on this beat a little bit, or we need your kick drum to land right on it, but the snare needs to be back a little bit, or it needs to push it, or the hi-hat needs to be on front of the edge or the back of the edge. So you've got to hear all that in your mind and feel it in your spirit before you can communicate it to anybody. So with vocals in particular, you've got to learn to hear the lyrics and know what the lyrics are trying to say. There's certain words or syllables that may need to be stretched out. When Dave was saying, you know, Michael saying, you know, when he went up and tell me why is it so that and then he drops down into the never can say goodbye. Well, that can, you see how that's doing a little smear down into that word, can say.
Go on, Khalid, go on. You still got
you know
it.
what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You can demonstrate what it is for the feeling that you want them to bring out, you know, and getting things like air, you know, you can tell them how, okay, I need you at the end of this word to add a little more air to it to just make it sparkle and everything. And you got to go beyond words. So you have to be able to demonstrate to some degree, you know. Jeffrey Osborne, one of the most underrated singers out there and everything. But when I worked with him, he told me something that his father taught me, because originally when he was younger, he was trying to sing like all singers were trying to sing, because Stevie Wonder was one of the first people that went out and started doing all the vocal acrobatics all over the place and everything. Then every other singer that once he started doing it, everybody wanted to do it. So Jeffrey was doing that for a while too. And his father told him and stopped him when he was just doing too much. He said, son, you got to learn the value of a whole note. And he said that stopped me. Why did he say that? And he figured, and then Jeffrey Osborne, I would watch him in the studio, learn how to get, and Dave mentioned it about Luther Vandross, taking a word and how you control your breath on a word, how you make it expand or contract just within the syllables, make those words touch people in their soul in a way that's impossible for you, because you're not the artist. You can't come in and just show somebody specifically how you would do it, because they got to get out how they would do it. So they got to understand what's going in it. But you as the producer have to have a formed up vision in your mind's ear and in your heart of what that's supposed to make you feel like when you hear it coming out of them, and then be able to express it to them that here's what we need, because here's what's being said, and you're not quite giving me that yet, or however you want to put it, but you want them to get to say, here's what we need to pull out of this word, this phrase, this syllable. Okay, here's what we need you to back up, push, and everything. So you got to study in and be able to learn those different things yourself, just enough to demonstrate it. Not where you have to become a master at it or things like that, but you have to get in there, because the only way you can recognize what it is you got to try it yourself, you know, to get over your embarrassment, get over all the other stuff. You know, I'm a shy person by nature, so I don't necessarily like to do this. I can hear everything, every flaw in what I say or do. But it's like when you're trying to communicate for somebody, that's what they do. And I know you've got more in you to bring it out. Just learn how to communicate it, demonstrate it. And quite frankly, when you do it, a lot of times the other person, when they're great, is like, well, I can do better than him anyway. So they'll bring something out and surprise you anyway. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Khalik. Flo had a question.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Dave and Khalik, I'd love your opinion on this, but I've heard stories from songwriters that they pitch a song to a major artist and the song gets picked up. And once they hear the song on the radio or film or TV, the lyrics have changed and are different. Is that okay? Or do you know what I mean? Or is that, because I've heard a lot of stories of this. Like, I mean, is that a typical thing that you guys have seen? And what are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, that can happen. I mean, you know, you could see a song book by somebody, Beatles, anybody, and it might have something different, because when they got to the studio, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes they might change it just so they could sing it smoother or easier. So the words might be different than what was published, you know. But as long as they're not asking for a publisher, hey, and as long as that check keep clearing that Wells Fargo, I could care less. They could change it to whatever, as long as we're not sharing it, and as long as the checks are clear, you know what I mean? But it could have been something as simple as that, you know. It could have been something that it's hard for them to pronounce something or something, you know. It could be that. Khalik, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered it. And sometimes it's just straight laziness. People just get it wrong and ain't trying to dig in and find out the right stuff. They take a guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. Would you say it would, so as a singer and a singer-songwriter, so I kind of want to go back to what you guys were saying, how do you get that singer to catch whatever that emotion or, you know, that you want them to convey? I honestly feel that it kind of comes upon the artists themselves to kind of do their research and just listen to different genres of music.
That's right.
And just not one specifically. Because when people ask me, like, how do you know what they're talking about? Well, because I don't just listen just strictly to R&B. Like I'll listen to a rock song and then turn around and listen to a country one within the next take, you know? I just kind of feel that if your palette is tasteful enough where you hear different genres, you can kind of get a general consensus of what it is they want. Am I right or wrong about that?
No, you're right. I mean, the only time I would have to work that hard, if I'm doing it through the entire song, if I'm trying to coach this vocal through the entire song, that means the artist hasn't done their homework enough. Now I'm trying to make them into something they're not, and hopefully it's going to make them push themselves more. You know, hopefully it doesn't make them feel uncomfortable on the spot if other people in the room or whatever. But you know, if they had done their homework, I wouldn't have to too much say change anything. It's just like working with great musicians. You know, typically, you know, like let's say guys like Nathan East, Greg Fillingays, whatever. And like Khalik said, they'll play better. They'll know what you want, but then they say, okay, I got it, record. And then they'll play better than you asked them to do it. But then too, afterwards, remember when I was talking about working with a vocalist and I would ask them if they could hear when they were out of tune, whatever? Well, those kind of guys also would say, just take me to the bridge. I need to fix one note. They're doing my job for me because they know I made a mistake in the bridge, and just take me there and you'll have a perfect take. That's the kind of people you want to have to deal with. But if you're constantly trying to coach everybody, the musicians, the vocalists, then obviously they haven't done their homework. You know what I mean? Because it's no different. Somebody remember choir rehearsal director for me, but it's no different than if you said you wanted to drive and you get in the car, there's going to be a few things you're going to have to understand first. So if I answer for everybody, I mean, we talk about the brake and the accelerator, to how to start the car, check your mirrors, all that kind of stuff, adjust your seat. Why is that any different than a singer trying to say they want to learn how to sing? There's going to be things that you're just going to need to know if you're going to get in an arena talking about your singing. You know, if this was Pro Tools, okay, well, at least you need to know how to record, cut, copy, paste, edit. If you don't know that, you can't go talking about you're a Pro Tools operator and expect to get paid if you weak in those areas. So it's no different for a singer. If you're saying you're a singer, there's some tenets that you just have to or should know. Otherwise, you're expecting somebody to get this out of you, to bring this out of you. And then if it comes out great through editing and coaching and tuning, you're going to go out there walking the street like a what's my man in Saturday Night Fever, when he's walking down the street, thinking he's hot stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're going to walk down the street thinking you're hot stuff. Yeah, John Travolta. And until somebody, but then if somebody asks you to go up on an open mic night, you'd be like, yeah, no, my throat hurt. You know what I mean? So, and then the other thing is when I said about the choir directors, go to choir rehearsals and you'll see choir directors teaching in sections about their voice, and I need you to be this and I need you to be that. That's the same thing. It's just like directing the choir. You know, so if the tenors don't know what I'm talking about, the choir director might sing it, or somebody in the tenor section might sing it, so everybody get the idea. Now they can sing it together. But there's a tone, there's a voice, there's a timbre or a tempo, you know what I mean? There's an attack, there's a release, there's all these things that are being involved. And when you're dealing with a group, you have to be connected. Otherwise, people are going to be ending words at different points, and you know, it's just going to be all over the place. If you see background singers, like groups of background singers, so like the LA A-list background singers, the Jones Girls, back in the day, the Emotions back in the day, Luther Vandross singers, they start and end words together unless the producers say, I need only you to say the T. So it's not a lot of T's. I only need you to say the T. The rest of you, make sure you don't say the T or pronounce the T. I mean, that's something you have to experience in the studio, because otherwise it'd be like everybody stopping at different places if they don't know. So if they don't know how to end it together, as a vocal coach or producer that knows, okay, I see you guys will never get this. Nobody says the T but you. And then we can keep moving, because now I've solved the problem. I have the answer to that problem. See what I mean? But that's what that is, Khaled. Yeah. And thank you, Mo, because you're right. If you haven't done the work, it just makes the producer's job harder. He's got to work more.
You know what drives me crazy, man? I'm sure you guys have seen it even on like TV shows or things like that. I hate when I see somebody in the vocal booth or whatever with this. It means you ain't ready, you ain't prepared. You know, somebody singing the song and doing that. You know, it's like, what is that? You know?
Yeah. You should be focusing on the energy of the song and what it is you're trying to emote. If you don't know the lyrics, that means you don't have it in your soul. Yeah. And I feel like as a writer, if you know you wrote it, what do you have to read it for? You wrote it. Or even if you gave a song to me and say, Mo, I want you to learn this song. It is my job to understand what it is you want from the song. And then what I do is go in there and add Mo to it. You see what I'm saying? So it's not like I'm not going to be in the booth with a paper and pad, and I'm too focused on don't forget the lyrics. No, it's just, you have to take that time to let it manifest within yourself, to say, am I living these words? Can I relate to these words? Can I close my eyes and see these words in my eyelids? That's where you know you've got it, right?
Well,
But if you gotta keep looking at the words, then you're taking away from the emotion. You're more focused on the technicality of if you said a word right.
Yeah, I mean, imagine an actor or actress, and the director has to keep stopping and say cut and say, okay, this is supposed to be a funny scene and you're too serious. Okay, then obviously you're the wrong actor or actress for this movie, because you should know that. You should know this is a comedy, so I'm supposed to be funny. If you were singing a song, Gladys Knight or something, neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye. I got to tell you what emotion you're supposed to have. The title itself tells you. You know what I mean? If you lived any kind of life before and had breakups or whatever, neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye. I know what that emotion is.
Neither one of us want to be the first to tell you to go home now. Do your homework.
You know what I mean? But that's what made somebody, I go back to Michael Good, that's what made somebody like him so amazing, because how would he know what Never Can Say Goodbye is at 10 years old? But he sounded like he lived that. And there were no adults outside Motown picketing, talk about children should not be singing adult songs. That didn't happen. You know, people were like, I know what you mean, Michael, because I almost left that woman this morning. You know what I mean? So certain things are given. Can you imagine having to tell Samuel L. Jackson what this scene's supposed to be about? The emotion to have? No. I'm sure that's why certain actors or actresses give other ones or beginners a hard time, because they should come prepared. They should come knowing that. You know what I mean? And you definitely can't hold a phone or have the script in front of you when you're supposed to be cutting the scene. You're supposed to know the part. You know, you can make mistakes, but you should at least know the scene. You know, so, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and let me say one other thing too. A big part of that is being, you know, you got to live the lyrics and everything. But I wanted to take it back to, I'm so hyped on that series called The Offer, because anybody that knows about in The Godfather, everybody freaks out over Al Pacino, but nobody wanted Al Pacino in that movie. He was an unknown actor. Nobody wanted him there. They tried to fire him numerous times. But what the thing was is like when he came in for a reading one day to do the thing, he turned into Michael Corleone so much that he scared the shit out of people on the set and everything. He was so in character. He got into it. He transformed because he was this meek, mild, soft-spoken person. Nobody could see him in it. Nobody wanted him on it. He almost got fired, didn't get the part. But when he transformed into this other guy, everybody was like, oh, wow, you know, because he came prepared. He didn't have nothing in there. And in fact, somebody went to talk to him, and one of the guys that doubted him, and he was still in the part. He couldn't pull out of it. And the guy on the back, whoa, you know, he felt like he was going to get killed or something like that. That's the kind of commitment you got to have when you're doing vocals or us as producers. When we get in and we're listening, I go to another zone. I know me and Dave, we've done it many times together in the same room, and anything we go in, we go to some other place that's so deep inside of what we do. It's like, you know, we got to extricate ourselves back out to get back into the real world. You know, you've got to have that kind of depth of commitment to do it at the right level, you know.
That's right. That's right. There's a story like that with Bruce on Enter the Dragon, when he was trying to prove his Jeet Kune Do to everybody. There was a scene where they said action, and when Bruce turned around, one of the actors, one of the stunt guys said cut, and they were like, well, what are you doing? He said, man, it looked like Bruce wanted to kill me for real.
For real. Yeah, right.
No, yeah. Cut.
All the way, like, wait, you know. Yeah. This is and like you said, even with Bruce Lee, some of those fight scenes that actually ended up on film ended up into being real scenes because people were trying to test. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but I have to leave in a sec. So I just want to say thank you, Dave. Thanks, Khalik. And I'm just really glad I could be a part of this.
Who is that talking? Let's see.
Natasi.
Natasi.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Love that name, by the way. I gotta take off too because I need to. I gotta get to work and start getting this studio back together so I can start mixing.
All right. Thank you
All right,
for hanging out, colleague. That was cool, man.
Man, it's so wonderful.
Thank you,
man.
Khalid.
Hey guys, and Dave.
Thank you so much, Khalid. I appreciate your time and value.
Oh, thank you guys. This is my pleasure. I love doing this. And Dave, has any of your information changed or anything? I want to be sure I'm still current because I think I tried to reach out to you a little while ago and I don't know if it got through or not. So.
Yeah. So put your email up in the, or send me, let's see. Get it from Dave.
Yeah. Dave has current information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna let y'all go, and thank you so much for inviting me in here. Thank you again, Bill Kamak. Where you at, brother?
We haven't heard from him at all.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we can all get together. Let's do this again real soon.
Yeah.
Catch y'all later.
Appreciate you, Khalid.
Thank you. Take care.
Much love, man. All right, so let's see who we got left. We probably would, what y'all want to give it like another 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and call it a day. Everybody enjoy this Saturday.
Right. I definitely enjoyed myself, all these jewels and gems, honey. Listen, this one over here is, I'm in cloud nine somewhere, like, hold on. Wasn't expecting all of this, but I'm here for it all.
Oh, wow, all right. Well, that's beautiful. That's what I'm talking about.
Thanks for including me, Dave. I appreciate it.
Oh man, my pleasure. Y'all gotta get Jared Durham's album when it comes out, man, because it's banging. He look at it, he moved where you can see his bass in the background. He had to make sure he had that setting.
Any of y'all have any questions?
Oh yeah.
No questions.
I am over full with all this knowledge. Like anymore, I'm here for it. But honey, let me tell you something.
Joyce will tell you, I get upset if people don't have questions. I'm like, what? How do you not have questions?
Like, how do you not, when you're in the presence of greatness, grab to that knowledge and gravitate, sir? I am humbled. Like I said, thank you for your time. Because you could be doing better things today, but you are here with us today. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm trying to be great like all of you guys. We're no different. We're all one. We're all the same. It's just just going after it. That's all. Hopefully, if we're all one and I give you some information that inspires you, then hopefully you go out and do it like Joyce. I don't even know what Joyce is doing when I met her. But I mean, look at her now. She's trying to do everything and got a studio, and you know what I mean? That's what it's all about, Yeah. And I'm proud of you, Joyce, by the way. I'm so proud of you.
Wow, that means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much, Dave. Yeah, I was a software engineer working a 9-to-5 job. That's where I was.
Wow.
Didn't believe in myself, and come across you and just hearing your stories. And just learning so much from you, did a lot. So thanks, Dave, from the bottom of my heart.
My pleasure.
Make me cry. I don't like to be that sensitive, guys. Oh, you go, girl.
Too cute, all of you, too cute.
But I mean, that's what it's all about. Because I mean, that was how long ago? 6 years?
Yeah, 6 or 7 years, 2016.
So
I left that industry.
That's a journey. That's a journey. You know what I mean? So, you may have hit bumps in the road, or you may have taken different forks in the road, but still, you're where you want to be or starting to be. Otherwise, if you didn't see confirmations that you were doing the right thing, you would have probably stopped by now. So, you're trying in different areas of the process, recording and mixing it and stuff like that. You got a studio, you're writing. I remember seeing a video once. So you're doing video, right?
Yeah, and I do video editing.
Yeah.
Produce for others, mix for others. So like, thank you so much.
Yeah. So I mean, imagine just me sharing and us talking made you do that. The rest was actually in you. It was in you already, You know, that concept that they talk about on all these movies, like Star Wars, the Force is within you, or you already had the Force, Luke, or the what is it, the Last Dragon, or one of those kung fu movies where you are the master. You've always been the master. You know what I mean? It's real talk. It's already been in you. It's just what awakens it, and how do you maintain it when sometimes you doubt yourself. But we all have doubt, self-doubt. We all have hard times that can make us doubt it again. But obviously 6 years later, you're hanging in there. You're hanging in there. So that's what it's all about.
Thank you. Because I was going through a moment, I'll be honest, like seriously down, like what's going on? But just being in your presence and just in all of your presence and just hearing what you're doing, what you've gone through, it's really helped me. So thank you so much for your time. Sharing your heart.
You were down.
My pleasure.
You were down even now?
Oh yeah, before this.
Yeah,
got a lot of dreams, so a lot of work to do.
Trust it happens, because before COVID hit, I was a touring singer. I was everywhere, and once COVID hit, it was just like I felt like, what am I gonna do? I can't do this. So I kind of got in this little funk where I was just like, okay, the world is not over. You're still alive. You're still breathing, so you just got to reinvent yourself in a different way, in a different light, and recreate. So the thing is, it's just, you always, once you have that drive of recreation and that is the inevitable, it's easy to just kind of pull yourself out. But people were like, well, it's easier said than done, which is true. But for me, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh my God, I'm a live singer. Can I do studio work? Absolutely. But my most gratification reward is just the energy from people, live instruments, the passion that they put in their, in the drummer or the bassist or the guitarist or a horn player. It's that drive for me that brings out that innerness in me that just emotes it, But I had to learn that, okay, so now that we're living in the time of COVID, what do you do? Well, reinvent yourself. Sometimes the universe has a way of kind of sitting you still for just a moment so you can recalibrate. Because if you're constantly going and you don't get that fine tune up, then something, it takes one little pebble to throw off the whole entire link. So like COVID was that little pebble for me to kind of put that halt and say, hey, don't forget, you got to reinvent yourself. Music reinvents itself every decade. So what we're hearing now, 10 years from now, it's going to sound something totally different. Or history has a way of repeating itself, but it reinvents itself again. Yeah, that's just kind of my take on it. So I get you, girl. When you said that downward feeling, oh yeah, just you got to remember in your soul that recreation is still there.
Yeah, and I mean, you also have life. I mean, the longer we live, the more life we live. So you also have to understand that, people will come and go in many ways, whether they actually leave this earth or leave your life, you know what I mean? When everything is good, something about the universe always wants to test you to push you to another level. So it might not come in the field of what you're enjoying. It might come in a way that would make you get distracted. So it could be a relationship, it could be a family thing, it's just life pushing you, testing you, and sometimes you might need that wake-up call. Sometimes the wake-up call might be to spend time outside of your normal day-to-day thing. Like when I used to spend so many hours in the studio, I got sidetracked from being with friends or family sometimes. And sometimes somebody leaving this earth will make you remember, okay, I got to start taking days off and enjoying family or whatever. But it's all part of life. So, also remember biblically, sometimes just be still. Just be still. Even if you're about to reinvent yourself, sometimes be still so you can kind of, find in your mind, rest, and just say, okay, show me where I'm supposed to go from here, what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to go about it. Because if you're constantly moving, you don't see the other things around you. If I was teaching you martial arts and I was teaching you how to be aware of and I used to do this at Musicians Institute with the students when I first started to teach them how to hear further. I take them outside and ask them, could they hear the power lines? Could they hear the car that just went by? Could they hear the car on the corner that just went by? But they would have their eyes closed. The only way you would know that is to be still. If you're walking, it's harder. If you're running, it's harder. But if you just be still, sometimes you hear more than you would have if you just, and your parents should do that. Go sit down somewhere. I know you all heard that. Go over there, get on that sofa, sit down. that was because they heard what you were doing. They just knew you just need to be still because you really must be sleepy. So they go sit down so you can fall asleep. But sometimes we had to do that in life. We had to just be still. Just breathe. You've heard that, just breathe sometimes. You know what I mean? Most of us don't take a deep breath until we go to the doctor and they ask you to take a deep breath. You know what I mean? But sometimes you need to go outside, even if you're going through life issues, you're going through not knowing how to finish the song. Sometimes just go outside and breathe. Just take a little walk, or just go outside and take 10 deep breaths. Fill yourself with fresh oxygen. Do something. But being still, or just giving things time sometimes. And I think Mo mentioned it. Easier said than done. In those situations, it's funny how friends and family always say that, oh, this too shall pass, and this is easier said than done. But at those times you don't want to hear that. But there's truth to it. There's truth to it. And some things are just part of a chapter. You just got to accept it. You know what I mean? If you read a book or see certain movies, certain chapters of the movie ain't good. Didn't end well. But that's just part of life too. That's just part of life. I know y'all didn't expect us to go there that deep, but Joyce knows how we do.
Thank you so much, Dave.
And thank you so much, Dave. I'm telling you, sometimes you need that deepness to kind of, wash away some things that just kind of been sitting there for a while. You don't know unless you ask. A closed mouth don't get fed,
That's right. That's right.
So
That's right.
for me, like I said, I'm here to eat, honey. And thank you for feeding my appetite, because I'm like, there was just so many unanswered questions that I had. And you just popped them all in the head for me. So now I'm like,
wow.
I got nothing but love for you, man.
Well, thank you. Same
got
here.
nothing but love and just respect.
And I'm gonna give y'all another example. I was at a place where, I was in a moment where I just didn't want to do anything musically. I just wasn't inspired to. And I'm that's usually how I roll. If something doesn't inspire me to do it, I don't do it. But I had a point where I just didn't want to do music for a while. And Jared called me with a song. And since we went back so far, I was like, yeah, man, I'll help you out. I got you. And it got me back into music, wanting to do work, but we need that. Now I could have easily let life cause me to say, no, man, I'm not in the right mind. I'm not into this. And then sometimes I don't want to put that spirit into somebody else's music either. So if it's something I can't get over, if it's something where I can't work without thinking about it, then I definitely won't do it, because I don't want to put that into the music. But his song came just in time. And then I took it as though that was me being still, and that's what came. The universe, the God brought me. Okay, you need to get off your butt. Here's a song from an old fellow, brother, and you need to get out of that mindset. So I was like, okay, yeah, I got you, Jared. Let's do this. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you just need that. Sometimes you working is that slap in the face that your family or friends can't give you. Here's some work, but you also got to be still so you don't miss it. When I say be still, because sometimes you can get so caught up into how bad you're feeling or what's going on in your life or whatever, and you could not see the opportunity because you were too in your head. You know what I mean? You could miss it just by being caught up in your own thoughts. Or, sometimes I know we've all probably done it. You get a call from somebody and you don't answer the phone, because you're like, I just don't feel like talking. I don't know what I would say. So I let them leave a message and so forth and so on, right? But let's say you do that and the person was calling you for some work And since you didn't listen to the message or didn't pick up, hour later they got somebody else. Then when you finally hear it, you're like, oh man, let me call them back. Well, I'm sorry, man, I already got somebody to do it. That's because you were trying to, you were not seeing what you needed calling you. You know what I mean? You were not seeing what you needed calling. I'll get even deeper, because I'm sure, like Jared, when we talk about Bernard, I'm sure there were people who should have called him or said they would have if they had known, but we don't know. That's just life. We never know when somebody's gonna leave here. But my sister, we talked maybe a few days before she passed, and she was in the hospital, and I just assumed, she's all right. The hospital got her, they say she's doing better, so forth and so on. But I still got a flight. And 3 days later, when I was about an hour or two from headed to the airport, she passed. Because we assume we have tomorrow. Nobody on this panel has a receipt for tomorrow in their pocket. So you need to study. You need to love on people. You need to try to learn one thing a day. If you learn one thing a day, 365 days later, you are a better mofo. But if you can just learn one thing a day, reach out to one person a day, show an act of kindness, something, then there's no regrets. There's no regrets. The only thing you can regret is not saying something, not doing something. I'm not saying don't binge watch a show or something. Sometimes you need to be still and just take your mind off of it, but still do something. Do something. I haven't done this in years. And I just felt like in this place that I'm in, me sharing and talking with you guys, hanging with you guys would get me or help me in my reinvention and my getting re-inspired. So sometimes you got to just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I lost all my tracks. So basically I had a really old computer.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, bless it, it lasted me a very long time. So I was very appreciative of my old computer, but I didn't back up majority of the stuff, or at least I thought I had it, and it didn't back up properly, and it was just a hot mess. And I lost absolutely everything. And I had like 13 tracks left on a hard drive. So I was just like, anyway, before that, I was only making 2 tracks a week. So I was like trying to push myself to make more music over a certain time. And because of that downfall, I am now making 2 tracks a day in opposed to 2 tracks a week. So I'm making 14 songs now, which is a ratio of good tracks, because you make music and then sometimes stuff comes out like really, really great, and then there's times it's like really, really pants, and it's like, oh my god. So I make that amount, and then usually I at least have 4 or 5 good tracks out of that amount of stuff, which is kind of cool. But what I've been doing is giving myself either the full weekend to create and make as many tracks in that weekend as I can, and then I'll give myself like a 3 days off or 2 days off, or I do it throughout the whole week and then have the whole weekend off to just do whatever the heck I want and just be silly and do stuff that I wouldn't usually do. That I find is like more of a better balance for me, because I suffer from anxiety, so my anxiety will waver, and then I'll have spurts of like, woohoo, got so much energy, let's go. and then I don't. So I've learned how to balance my own anxiety. Like before I even get to a crash, I give myself the break before it gets to that point. Yeah, I just thought I'd share. Maybe it might help someone anyway. But yeah, it's nice to have a bit of balance and to not feel so much pressure that you have to have stuff done and it's got to be done by this time or that day. It's just nice to be able to create and be able to give yourself the break when you feel that you need the break.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You kind of know, like that saying when they say, do you understand what it means to wait? And the typical answer is, oh yeah, just stand still. But then I give this analogy: when you go to a restaurant and you are greeted by who? A waiter or a waitress, right? Are they standing there, or are they constantly moving, but they're checking in? So I said, sometimes, yeah, it's okay to wait, but you got to understand that waiting is also serving. You got to move at a pace where you know you won't miss something, but you can't completely just stop what you're doing, because then nothing will get accomplished. That's just how I think. I don't know. My mind is a little different and unorthodox, but it made sense to me.
Well, you know, there's silence is golden sometimes, and being still is golden. You know, just like if you practice meditation, you know, there's a stillness. There's things that you could become aware of, and that's just me, that you could become aware of. And being in martial arts a lot of my life, there's things that you become aware of when you just be still. You know what I mean? But no, a waitress and a host or a waiter, hostess, yeah, they got a job to do. They better be moving in my restaurant or they're fired. Yeah.
I ain't paying you to just stand there and look cute.
That's right. That's right. If you leaning, you could be cleaning. All right. What else we got, gang?
To use that one.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Ebony, Mo, that Shadiq, I think I said that right. Jared, Joyce. Let's see who else we got. Mott. All right, well, I'm glad you guys had a good time. I did. It definitely helped me today. I needed this myself. Internally, I needed this. So appreciate y'all.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
It's always interesting, Dave. Even if I don't realize I need something, I end up getting it, and I'm like, damn, okay. Like I didn't realize, like I got stuff out of this. This hit different than our old ones.
Okay.
This was different. It hit different. I don't know what it is, but this hit different than the old ones. The old Google Hangouts, and it's like my wife just. Y'all ever eat that sirloin ground beef stuff? Like sirloin, the high quality. Well, I'm from the hood. I've been eating that non-high quality all my life. And my wife 2 days ago got me some sirloin, holy wow, and mushrooms, and had me make a hamburger. Man, I had no idea. Like this was different. It's like this, like I'm saying, like this Google Hangout. I'm eating this burger and I'm like, what the hell have I been eating all my life? And this stuff was expensive, and I'm willing to spend a minute, but the money was worth it. But I'm sitting there like, wow, total difference. And I'm relating that like right now in my head. This right here, Dave. Whatever this was, we need to. Yeah, this is the type of thing we need to keep going, and we'd love to have you back, of course. It's like when we talk to you, it's not just music; it's everything. Like we get to open up and talk to you about anything, ask you whatever, and you come with it. And then you had Khalid come in and bring some too. Thank you. You know,
Khalid was, man, them jewels. Look, I feel sorry for those who was
break it up.
Baby. That brother right there.
Yeah, Mimad, I think
are like, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are a force to be reckoned with, because both of y'all was just like spitting it, and I'm like, hold on, wait, I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Khalid and I go back, man, to at least the late '90s, probably, for sure. And
what was the first thing y'all worked on together?
Well, it was a lot of stuff we worked on at Marcus Miller Studio.
Okay.
But I think he got his first Grammy on the song. I let him mix, and it was a Shaka Khan song. Yeah. So, yeah.
Mart,
What would you do?
I think what you were saying, Mart. I think what you were saying, Mart, about why this one hit different. I think you, sir, Dave. I think you kind of set the tone in the sense that it was a little bit deeper in the sense of not to say that whenever we did the Google Hangouts or whatnot, were superficial, but they weren't as deep and as real in a sense. They were, but not. You're just a level deeper in a sense where you set the tone where it was a lot more real in a sense. The more human aspect was involved with it all instead of just mostly more industry type of things.
Wow. Well, I appreciate that, man. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate that.
That's the quality in life, man. You know?
Yeah, and you brought it to a whole nother level. It wasn't just about, this is what we do in the industry. You're like, listen, this is about life choices. This is about life's deeper things that, when you go through, this is how you go, you come out of it, and this is what you learn from it. This is how you go about it. This is how you carry yourself, the etiquette, everything. I mean, y'all was just putting out the full spread. Forget the side fixings. You put it all on the table, and that you don't get that. You just don't get it like that, because some people pay for stuff that you're dropping. And I am blessed to be able to get it for free.
Oh, wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Well,
that is a whole nother level of respect, sir.
It wasn't free. It cost you your time, as long as you take the time.
It was time that I promise you, I know I can't get it back, but the residue that was left in it, honey, trust me, it's a lifetime.
Time well spent.
Time well spent. Okay.
We take it with us.
Well, thank you guys. Wow. Well, if there's no more questions, I'll leave y'all with one thing, and then I'll see y'all when the next time I see you. Most of you, I think, have my email address, but let me give it to you.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, I do.
Could you put it in the chat, and then we could?
Okay. Yeah. See. That take a young person to let this old person know. We do have the chat. We do have the chat screen over here.
Put it in there, and then we can
I'm
just
all
copy
old.
and paste it.
I'm all old. I'm all old talking about y'all get a pencil and paper now.
We're trying to save trees now. We done chopped them all down, and now we're trying to save the rest that's left.
Okay.
Yeah, you can let the internet know, pick folks from the internet, so they could they might want to holler at you too. Yeah. Might be some money out there for you coming your way.
But Joyce knows, and Jared knows, when I say you can ask me a question anytime, yeah, I mean that. The only time you can is when I'm gone.
Okay.
So, and then Mo mentioned it earlier about a closed mouth don't get fed. Well, if you don't open your mouth and ask, you won't know. So, hit me up with anything. You know what I mean? It could be somewhere, I never thought of it that way. Or it could be, I needed to put my mind on something else than what life has given me or whatever. So, whenever you're not a bother, because if you were, I wouldn't give my email address out. So, I can't be any more real than that. But what I'm gonna leave y'all with is you have thoughts. Some thoughts may not be your own, but you'll know the difference between God and the other one. But but some thoughts you have are yours. You asking yourself, should you, or whatever. And then you have choices, because after you have these thoughts, unless they're all guiding you to the same answer, then that's not a choice. That's just maybe something you should do or not do. That's the choice. But if you have choices, now you got to decide between these choices. So you got thoughts, choices, decision. And after you make that decision, then after that, it's action. It's action time. Just like if it was a movie, action. Now do it. Right? Go give the best performance of that day of your life. And I'm not just talking about music or the industry. I'm talking about period. In anything in your world, around you, there's thoughts that you have. You know, you can have thoughts about relationships, end of relationships, going to see family, whatever. There's thoughts. Then you have choices. Am I going to do it today? Am I going to do it tomorrow? Am I not going to do it at all because it's probably end up bad? You have these choices. Then you make a decision out of those choices. Now, whatever that decision is, there's actions, but also understand there's consequences. So bad choices are consequences. Good choices are seeds planted that just come to fruition if you stay on top of it. Because if you plant a seed, you can't just become like water, be like water. If you plant a seed, it can't grow by itself, unless it's a mustard seed or something serious, a desert seed or something. But you gotta, if you water it, you put it in a place where it gets sunlight. Some people talk to it. How much love you put into what you want to grow. It's the action. So just keep that in mind. Your thoughts, sometimes you got to think about other stuff. Sometimes you got to get some of the bad clutter out of your head. And I'm facing that right now myself. You got to get some of the clutter out your head because you can lose focus concentrating or your thoughts being on things that just aren't productive to what you want to do in your life. But we have these thoughts. We do. We all have a battle of the mind. So, if we didn't, it wouldn't be a lot of books on how to control your mind or how to straighten out your brain. It wouldn't be these books about that. But once you have these thoughts, now you have to choose. Am I going to keep having these thoughts, or am I going to get rid of these thoughts, or am I going to do something to get my mind off the thing? And then you make a decision, and then you put it in action. And then you wait to see what the outcome is. And like I said, bad choices and decisions deals the answer, the end result, rather, is consequence. And good ones are something fruitful. Period. Little Davey Isaac. Out.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Dave.
You can't do that. No. You
So
can't
much.
do that. Hold on. Wait a minute.
That's good. I wrote that shit down. I wrote
Woo,
down-
hold on. He did not just bust our head open and then was like,
I read that on paper. That's gonna be my quotation.
oh wow.
Dave, you got a lot of hours in sitting still, I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just chilling. If y'all have more questions, I'm cool. I dedicated this day or time for all this, but Joyce knows I always would do that when I end the class. Little Davey Isaac, I would always do that. Or thanks for coming to hang out. Thanks for coming to hang out with me. That's what I would say. Yeah. But I always gotta try to pass on life too, man. I guess
Love
that's
it.
just a part of how I get down. Yeah. But if you guys want to have any last comments, I'd love to give y'all the time to do that too.
What do you say after that? Sir. What did we say? Thank you.
What we say after that is, now look, we are a community. We can Zoom together, little private Zooms. If Joyce ain't getting out or whoever's not, whatever, look, y'all know we can Zoom and communicate, whether it's songwriting or if somebody needs to talk, whatever. We're community. So y'all always know y'all can contact me. Dave might not pick up your call. I'll pick up the call. Don't worry about it. I got you.
I definitely want to songwrite. I want to get involved more.
Oh, definitely.
I'm such a hermit. I want to start writing with other people.
Yeah.
I write with other people here at the minute. I'm writing with a couple.
Well, Ebony, girl, since you want this little funk vibe, I got you. I got some stuff. My Arsenal girlfriend. Just hit me up. That's all you got to do. Just hit me up.
Look, we got Joyce. The ones that I know who songwriting be doing the singing stuff is Joyce. All three of you ladies, Nancy also. We can all get together and start doing stuff. And I don't know what JD, like, I ain't finna volunteer JD. I would, but I don't know him like that. I volunteer JD because I know him like that. I mean, I volunteer JD, but I don't know him like that still. And Odette, do you songwrite?
Yeah, I can do that.
Look, we got a little community here where we could actually get together and just do stuff, even creative. Man, there's all kinds of stuff we could do privately in little Zooms. You know, if Dave don't want to spend time with us, we can,
Why are you throwing Dave out there like that? Are you throwing strict like that? I got you,
No,
Dave. Don't worry.
Dave has been so generous. Dave has been so generous, like helping out, talking on the phone. I've really been trying to understand this Motown stuff that they were doing, the old school stuff. And every time you think, like I'm always getting, it's like, who? And write stuff down and have to go down these rabbit holes researching people. Dave has been
I lost everybody for a minute. Oh, I say the internet.
No, we got rid of you for a minute. We got tired of you,
You wanted to say something on the side so I could
Speak for
hear.
yourself, brother. Speak for yourself. I ain't never.
But y'all, we can all, don't be afraid to contact each other. What's that, Dave?
I'm gonna see if you and Joyce remember, since you're talking about songwriting, do you guys know what you should tell or pass on to them to work on? Joyce and Mott.
Pass on to who?
To the other songwriters.
Pass on to them?
Yeah.
Are you talking about studying the songwriters? Like when you gave us a list of 100 songwriters?
There you go. There you go. Yeah, you remember that?
You know what he's talking about, Joyce?
Yes.
You remember that, Joy?
Yes, it's coming back. It's been a while, but it's
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah.
Can I have the list?
Well, here's the list.
Yeah, my list ain't gonna do you no good. But go ahead, Dave.
Here's the list. If you want to study songwriting, there is no book on studying songwriting. You can collect books. You can collect books like the Paul McCartney has one that's incredible. He has a collection that has all of his lyrics and the sheet music to it.
Oh
and
yeah,
it just looks incredible.
I go to my music library that's close to me and close to my uni, and I read the books in there. I look at the really old school, like the songs that they used to sing in the cotton fields and that kind of thing. I like to read those. Yeah. So I get.
So you make collect those books. You can collect those just so you can get into the individual writer. But the songbook of life is you looking at, let's say, Rolling Stone, Billboard, ASCAP or BMI. You look up those lists. Look at what they say is the top 100, because that's just what they say is the top 100 songwriters. And then you take those different groups or those different lists, whittle them down to 100, because there's going to be some duplicates. So you just take out the duplicates, and then there'll be people who you don't know, but don't just write them off. Go and listen to some of their stuff, because you might have heard the song, just didn't know who did it.
Okay.
But get it down to 100 out of those groups, and you can choose all of them. You can choose Billboard, Rolling Stone, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, just whatever. And then and Google might have the top 100. You never know. I mean, I'm getting old, so y'all probably got some younger stuff to look at. But you get it back down to 100, then look at that 100, see if there's anybody missing that meant something to you in your life as you came up, as you grew up, as you studied music or whatever. Make sure you add them in and get it back down to 100, and then you have the book of life. All you got to do is study your list. Because if it's Stevie Wonder got four or 5 decades. You know what I mean? That's just Stevie. You got Billy Joel, you got, Paul Simon, you got so many people. You got Prince. Prince is just crazy. So you got Motown, you got, just study the craft of what you say you are. See how Smokey Robinson, you know what I mean? You're talking about the craft, and you'll start to see how to play with English. You'll see how to play with poetry. You'll see how to play with creating visuals. It's all there. It's all there, but it's not in one book. It's not in a book by one person. It's just you studying songwriting as it existed on this earth. That's what it is.
That's cool.
You know, and it'll give you'll be studying for the rest of your life. You will. You know, but you'll also be putting things in your head as you read it. Sometimes even as you read it, say it. So you're using two senses. You're hearing yourself say these things, you know, and you're reading them. If you're writing it down or if you're typing it into your computer, I know y'all young people are gonna say you could just copy it and paste it in Word. Okay, I get you. But sometimes
I write down things.
Yeah, sometimes writing it out is another sense. It's touch. It's touch. You know, you're saying it, you're reading it out loud, you know, and it sticks differently. But as you go on that journey, yeah, you'll have enough to last you a lifetime.
Okay.
A lifetime.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I just noticed Bill was back. We missed you, man. But
I've been in the background soaking it up. Appreciate you, Dave.
Oh man, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Bill, I thought you went for pizza as normal.
I thought you ran out. What were you drinking?
Pizza and a beer.
I thought he said, "This can't be my last one." Oh, let me cut off this video real quick.
Head out to the store.
Yeah, but no, man. Thank you, Bill, also for setting this up, man. You and Mont, thank you guys again.
Oh, anytime, man. We appreciate your time.
This was a pleasure. This was a pleasure. I needed this. I didn't realize how much I needed it. Yeah.
We'll do it again soon.
Yeah. All right. All right, gang. So anybody have anything else to say before we cut this?
Hey, Dave. Just one last comment. You know, I didn't realize I needed it either, man. You know how you say you go through these ebbs and flows. You know, sometimes you just just wonder where you're at in the whole process, man. You know, and you have to get remotivated, re-energized. You know, and that's what this is for me. Just a reinvigoration. You know,
Yeah, man.
I'm happy that I played some small role in helping you get jump started.
Oh man, yeah. You have no idea, man. In fact, Mott played a role too. You know what I mean? I was just at a place where sometime him calling to check on me, you know, meant a lot. Whether I shared everything or not, you know, it was needed. And sometimes, you know, Mott is telling y'all about doing the group hangs as songwriters or whatever, you know, you guys, like he was saying, should do that too, just so you can stay up, just in case you need to learn something that keeps you occupied in a positive way. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, my pleasure, Jared, for sure.
All right, well, that sounds like that'll do it for us today.
Yep. Let's see. I just saw another text. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Joyce. Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome, Joyce. Yeah.
All right, gang.
I'll make sure I send my music.
I'm
It'll
sorry.
probably be I'll send my music, but it'll be on a SoundCloud link.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Everybody, if you want me to hear, check it out. You know, yeah, let me know. Just email me, text me. And Joyce.
I will definitely do that. I said I would definitely do that. I got a couple things. Just Google my name and it's out there. That's I tell people, just Google.
All right. Hopefully somebody else don't come up that they're using your picture.
The way I
using your picture. All right.
What you saying? Use your picture? What?
Huh?
You know, some of these things, man. Some of these things on the internet have the wrong picture of people.
Oh yeah, no, I have a very distinctive look, so it's yeah. You'll be like, yep, nope, that's her. I know that's her.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you look on All Music or some of these spots. One time I saw a dude look like Boy George, and it was my credits, and I was like, yeah, no, that is
Wow.
not me. But yeah, hit me up, guys. Joyce, I always have an ear to listen to some of your stuff before you send to a master engineer. You know what I mean? You might
be
need,
aware.
just know I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm here.
Just be aware with my stuff that I'm learning. I'm in the process of learning how to mix and master. Okay, so I'm not. Like,
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. That's how I can help. You know what I mean? That's how I can help. And then everybody's putting their emails in. So give me a second before we cut this, so I can make sure I get their emails. I don't know how to do this, but and then everybody, if y'all do that 100 songwriters list, send it to me so I can check it out and see what you're into. Fellas, I know if y'all put the Spice Girls in there, I won't tell nobody else what y'all got to do.
Listen, they wrote hits, man. There ain't not wrong with them Spice Girls.
Y'all put the Spice Girls in there. Straight up, okay? Keep that.
I might have to ask, how was that important to you in your life? But I won't share it. I won't share it. Yeah. Let's see. All right. Let me just get these email addresses down. Y'all could talk amongst yourselves while I'm writing these email addresses if you want.
Oh, Mark, just to let you know, I ain't forgot about the
Yeah, you did.
No, I did not forget about the song with Chewy. I did not. It's just, listen, with all these renovations and everything, I'm like, I just need a moment of silence, people. Can I just do something? But I figured out a way how to record my vocal on my phone through my GarageBand, and imported the track into the GarageBand on my phone. So I actually can record my vocal on the phone instead of doing the double phone thing. I was like, so that's how you do it. Okay. So yeah, as soon as I have a moment of silence, I promise you I'm sending it over to you and Chewy.
Well, yeah, you should be able to import the beat into GarageBand and then record on GarageBand.
Yeah, even that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. I just had to figure it out. I was just like, oh, because my studio stuff, all my equipment is still packed up because like the whole house is just the floors, everything. Like we're remodeling pretty much top to bottom.
I know. I'll get those ready so I can move in. I know.
Yeah, I got you, Mark. I got the little, little suite downstairs and everything for a Donny trip, tater chip. I got you.
We are headed to Cooey's tomorrow. We're gonna head to Cooey's tomorrow. We're gonna try to knock out at least 3 songs. 2 are already written, and we're finishing up writing 1 today. Hopefully, we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to ask you, there was one person in here, he never said anything. He would say, remember I asked him, he was from New York.
Yeah, that was Rick St. Hilaire. That was Busta Rhymes' engineer. He's come on here with a picture one time. He disappeared and went to do something. I meant to say, hey, Rick, and have him come and talk, but we just kept going. We just kept going.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's a cool brother. Like, and he good. He is good. He is good.
Next time we have to make sure he talk up.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He can be Casper on us like that. Just here today.
Yeah.
Brother can do his thing. Rick is a bad brother.
I want everybody to have a great Saturday, wherever you are. Enjoy the day. Seize the day.
I'm gonna seize the night. It's night here.
Okay.
Where are you at?
Now, sugar, let's get it.
Where are you?
Where you at?
I'm in England.
In England.
So I'm it's just 10 o'clock at night here.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
It looks like the sun is shining through your.
Oh no, That's my light, how my light is, but it's
Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks like the sun is shining through the window or something.
Okay.
You know.
We all over here like, hey, it's daytime. She's like, no, it's time for me to go to night nights. It's bedtime.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, gang. Talk to y'all soon.
Cheers, everybody.
All right.
Thank you
Take
so much.
care.
Have a good one.
All right.